Fernand Pellenberg was born the heir of the Pellenberg family, one of the wealthiest noble houses in the entire Armenian Empire. A student at the Imperial Academy of Magic, he came from a family known not only for its affluence but also for its prestigious academic background. They were so rich it was almost obscene. And yet, Fernand was obsessed with money. Truly obsessed. His greed was unmatched, to the point that it became the defining trait of his entire being. During the Imperial Academy's debate competition, where the grand prize was an astounding 1,000 bottles of top-tier elixirs, Fernand stood up and boldly declared, "There's nothing in this world more valuable than money." From that day on, people started calling him the money hound. This money-crazed lunatic, yes, Fernand was, as usual, enjoying himself while reviewing reports from the merchant guild managed by his family. The moment he received the report, the first thing out of his mouth was, "So, how much did we make this month?" If the staff reported that earnings had dropped even slightly compared to the previous month, they were in for a world of hurt. And if they didn't meet his expectations, Fernand would smack them on the head. For him, that was just another normal day. But as people often say, tragedy strikes when you least expect it. That day Fernand was out walking in the courtyard, grumbling under his breath. When are they going to start working hard enough to actually earn their pay? Hyde, standing beside him and reading the report, replied, "Didn't he actually improve this time?" But Fernand wasn't satisfied. Sure, it's better than before. But still, just then he looked up at the sky and noticed something strange. On what was supposed to be a perfectly clear day with not a drop of rain, a bolt of lightning struck Fernand out of nowhere. As consciousness faded under the shock, a strange soul seized the moment and tried to possess his body. The moment this entity entered, it blurted out, "Who was this?" Fernand, confused and dazed, asked, "Who are you?" The soul chuckled and said, "Looks like I'm about to take over someone, huh?" Fernand, stunned, replied, "Take over? What the hell are you talking about?" The strange soul kept rambling about things Fernand couldn't even begin to understand, but his instincts told him one thing: the soul was trying to steal his body. With what little mana he had left, Fernand struck back. Clenching his fist, he landed a punch on the intruder. "Ow! What the hell? That hurts. Help me!" the soul screamed. Though it was easily defeated, Fernand somehow ended up absorbing part of it. In that instant, unfamiliar memories flooded into his mind. It was like a bolt of lightning tearing through his brain. He suddenly bolted upright. Hyde rushed over, panicked. "Young master, are you all right?" Fernand stared blankly at the strange glowing letters floating before his eyes. It was a prophecy, the prophecy of the world's end. It read, "The end draws near. 72 demons shall rise again, and bring ruin upon the world. The descendant of the founding emperor, Ain't Armian, shall." Then came the most terrifying line: "Fernand Pellenberg, heir to the Pellenberg duchy, shall be expelled from his family for colluding with, lose all his wealth, and become homeless." Frozen in shock, Fernand just sat there, unblinking. Hyde called out, "Young master? Young master." But Fernand couldn't answer. The prophecy painted a future worse than death itself. Fernand Pellenberg shall be expelled from his family for colluding with what the hell? He thought in horror. Me? Expelled? And lose all my money too? What the actual hell is this? From that day forward, Fernand began doing everything he could to uncover the truth about the strange soul, why it had tried to possess him, and why he now had those memories. But no matter how much he dug, he found nothing. Still, one thing was certain: the prophecy was real. Every prediction it made had come true so far, minus 100% accurate, at least up to that point. Because of this, he figured he could use the prophecy to make money. But strangely, that brought him no joy. After all, if the prophecy was indeed real, then his downfall was inching closer every day. He needed to be absolutely sure those words were the truth. One afternoon, Fernand returned home from class. Hyde greeted him. "How was the lesson today?" "Same as always," he replied curtly. Hyde hung up his master's coat and asked, "Would you like some coffee?" Fernand reached for the newspaper on the table and said, "Yeah." As he scanned the pages, flipping through in search of something specific, he muttered, "Where's the news about the academy?" Hyde watched quietly for a moment before asking, Young master, have you been feeling unwell lately?" Fernand looked up, confused. "No, why?" Hyde continued, "It just seems like you've been more anxious than usual." Surprised, Fernand asked, "Since when?" Hyde answered, "About 6 months ago, sir. There are times when you seem completely spaced out and don't respond even when I call." Other times you make really impulsive decisions even though you used to be meticulous about everything. Are you sure this isn't some aftereffect of being struck by lightning? Hyde had clearly been watching him very closely. Fernand tried to brush it off with an excuse. Those strange decisions. They've all turned out profitable, haven't they? What after effect? Then suddenly his eyes caught a small article about Aint Armian, the successor. He really enrolled at the academy. Before Hyde could finish asking if he had another source of information, Fernand was already up and heading out the door. I'm going south for a bit. Hyde called after him, what about your coffee? The Imperial Academy was located on an island called Bardian, an environment largely crafted through magic. The southern part of the island was a flooded zone, filled with wetlands and magical swamps. Fernand rode his horse down to that area to scout around, silently thinking to himself, if this checks out, I can finally confirm whether the prophecy is real. Among all the prophetic messages Head received, 3 stood out so clearly they were practically burned into his mind. First, a future where Fernand Pellenberg is expelled from his family. Second, a future where Fernand Pellenberg is left penniless. And third, a future where Fernand Pellenberg becomes homeless. Just thinking about those fates made Fernand panic. He urged his horse to go faster, mumbling, no, this can't be happening. But as he galloped he reviewed the details in his head once more. First, the future of Fernand Pellenberg. Second, the prophecy that 72 demons, once summoned by Colomo, would rise again. And third, the future in which Aint Armian saves the world from those demons. Aint Armian, a name known by everyone in the Empire. A direct descendant of the founding emperor, Carlinhos Armian. The Armian family had built the entire empire and once ruled over 5 neighboring kingdoms. But after 1,000 years, their power had long since faded. The prophecy didn't say much beyond that Aint Armian would central role. After passing the Academy's entrance exam, instead of going home, Aint had headed straight toward the southern wetlands. His reason for enrolling in the Academy was to search for a map said to have been left behind by the founding emperor himself. From that point on, everything related to Aint had been unfolding like the pages of a novel, detailed, dramatic, and eerily precise. If Aint kept acting in line with the prophecy, that would be the clearest way to prove its validity. He wasn't just a key figure in the prophecy, he was also directly linked to Fernand's own bleak future. At some point, Fernand had even come across what appeared to be expulsion documents, ones that seemed to have been written in advance. As Fernand brought his horse to a stop and looked around cautiously, a deeper worry gnawed at him. The worst part is, I don't even know why Aint Armian hates me. He couldn't read the prophecy in full, some parts had been deliberately blurred out. He could only grasp a rough outline of future events, not the full picture or the nuances of relationships. According to what he pieced together, it seemed that at some point, he had teamed up with demons. Fernand frowned. That doesn't make any sense. Me, working with demons? Fernand searched the area thoroughly. He's got to be around here somewhere. Aint was currently searching for a dungeon hidden deep within the wetlands. A place said to contain a legendary sword left behind by the founding emperor, along with the soul of the emperor. Fernand did the math. If the prophecy is accurate, then this guy's a prime candidate to be the world's savior. A true hero. Suddenly he let out a low, bitter laugh. If he weren't so important to the prophecy, I would have killed him already. Who the hell does he think he is, taking all my money like that? Then, a strange smell hit Fernand's nose. Blood. A thought flashed through his mind. Right, I remember now. He was wounded by a croaker while searching for the dungeon. That made sense. Even if he was destined to become a hero, for now Aint was still inexperienced. Taking on a top-tier predator like that was probably too much for him. Fernand followed the blood trail to a small cave. Is this the dungeon entrance? He wondered, stepping closer. So far everything still aligned with the prophecy. He was just about to head inside to check, thinking, let's see if Aint's still, when suddenly, he froze and gasped. Aint appeared from the far end of the cave, blood smeared across his stomach. Fernand was stunned. He's already here. Did I get here too early? Deciding to play it cool, he put on a stern face and said, Aint Armian. First years aren't allowed in this area. Aint looked confused. You know who I am? Fernand raised an eyebrow. Is there anyone in the Empire who doesn't know who you are? Aint gave a polite nod. My apologies. And you are? Fernand, he replied. Aint's eyes widened. Wait, Fernand? Fernand Pellenberg? Fernand scowled, pretending to be annoyed. What too casual? I'm a year ahead of you, you know. Flustered, Ain't quickly corrected himself. Right, sorry. Sir Pellenberg. Feigning ignorance, Fernan asked. You get injured by a lizard man or something? Ain't answered honestly. It was a croaker. Fernan let out a mock gasp. A croaker? Those are rare. You've got some real bad luck. He then shoved a potion bottle into Ain't's hand. Here. This one's high grade. Way more effective than 10 low-grade potions. Ain't was taken aback. High grade? Fernan? I seeing Ain't skip the formal address. Fernan cut him off sharply. Sir Pellenberg. Ain't paused awkwardly and explained, right, sorry. It's just, I don't have any money. Fernan replied coolly. I don't need your money. He went on, your family may not hold the power it once did, but I'm pretty sure you'll become someone valuable. After all, you carry the blood of the founding emperor. Let's just say I'm making an investment. Ain't looked at him in surprise, thinking to himself, maybe Fernan Pellenberg isn't the money-crazed maniac everyone says he is. He actually seems decent. Thank you, sir, Ain't said earnestly. But inside, Fernan was screaming. That potion was damn expensive. If it weren't for the prophecy, he would have never ever handed it over. He quickly changed the subject. You're lucky, you know. Back when I was a first year, anyone caught sneaking around like this got punished right away. I'm letting this slide. Got it. As expected, Ain't was deeply grateful. Yes, sir. Thank you, Sir Pellenberg. Fernan nodded. All right, I'll see you around. Ain't bowed respectfully. Thank you again. I'll repay this favor. Fernan pretended to leave, but then doubled back and hid nearby to keep watching Ain't, still bitter about having given up such a valuable potion. He watched as Ain't drank it, then made his way into the dungeon. After waiting a while, Fernan followed him in. As he stepped inside, Fernan looked around and muttered, I was honestly still skeptical, but this really is a dungeon. The place looked cleared out, nothing in sight. Guess Ain't already wiped the place clean. He reached out and grabbed one of the lamps hanging on the wall, his brow furrowed. Weird. I can't sense any traces of mana, even though there are so many magic lamps here. He observed more closely and soon realized. Ah, they're absorbing mana from the surrounding environment. Eternal magic lamps. His eyes narrowed. And the kid just left them behind. Does he have any idea how much these things are worth? Fernan was starting to think that Ain't seemed a little too naive. Nothing like the composed, capable hero described in the prophecy. Is it really okay to leave the future of the world in this guy's hands? According to the prophecy, Ain't had been wounded when entering the dungeon, and not only that, he'd been badly shaken up after falling at the entrance. He'd clenched his teeth, his whole body aching, and chugged down every potion he had. But the injuries didn't heal. They were too severe, and his potions were all low grade. Still, he pressed on. Something primal, instinctual was pushing him forward. Then he saw a sword embedded in a pedestal. It looked ordinary enough, long, plain, nothing flashy. And yet, he couldn't take his eyes off it. It called to him. Not with words, but with a pull that echoed in his mind, resonating with his very soul. The moment Ain't gripped the sword, brilliant light burst through the dark chamber. And when he opened his eyes again, he was no longer in the dungeon. He was standing in a narrow alleyway within the Imperial Academy. Back in the dungeon, Fernan noticed something faint on the stone pedestal, a subtle trace of magic. Barely visible, but still there. This must have been where the sword was placed. Ain't had vanished. That confirmed it, the prophecy was real. And if that part was true, then so was the rest. Fernan's mind flashed back to the prophecy about his own fate. The expulsion document. Every privilege and possession tied to the Pellenberg name, everything the head of the Pellenberg household had ever given him, would be stripped away. None of it would belong to him anymore. Not a single thing. And the head of the family had said it clearly, don't ever show your face to me again. No, not just to me, don't show your face to anyone. That's the most mercy I can offer you. There was no denying it now. That was his future. Clutching his head in despair, Fernan groaned, I'm going to lose everything. He clenched his jaw and growled through gritted teeth. What the hell kind of screwed up future is this? Ain't Armian, the one recognized by the prophetic scripture, the hero chosen by fate to protect the world from demons. And the one who would eventually leave him with nothing. Fernan sat at his desk, doing calculations. Still, Ain't was like a rising stock, he should rush in and wag his tail like a loyal dog. But the Ain't described in the prophecy was completely different from the one standing before him now. He was someone who valued honor over wealth. If Fernan wasn't careful, it could backfire horribly. He suddenly imagined Aint's wrath. "You shameless bastard, trying to bribe me? Eliminate him immediately." Fernan sighed, unsure of how to approach him. "This is tough," he muttered. Hearing that, Hyde asked, "What's tough?" Fernan replied, "Hyde, imagine there's a merchant guild that's been consistently growing. If you had a chance to invest, what would you do?" Hyde set down his coffee cup and answered without hesitation, "I'd invest right away." Fernan raised a brow. "But what if the guild's motto doesn't align with your values?" Hyde looked serious. "Does it matter? Isn't it you who always says, 'With money you can follow any motto'?" Fernan found himself agreeing. He had been too caught up in thoughts of demons and the fate of the world. But at its core, this was about investment, risk management, and reaping big returns. Personality differences meant little in the face of massive profits. Still, he needed more detailed information on Aint. He stood up abruptly, grabbed his cloak and headed for the door. "I'm going to see him myself." "Wait, who are you going to see?" Hyde called after him. "You've got a visitor scheduled." He sighed, clearly exasperated. Just like yesterday, where did he run off to this time? At the academy, dormitories were assigned based on entrance exam rankings. Ranks 1 through 10 went to Ravidos Hall. Ranks 11 through 30 to Bless Hall. Everyone ranked 31 and below was lumped into the bottom of society. Aint had been assigned to Debus Hall. Within the sword Aint carried resided the spirit of Gardener Alphenparson, who was utterly outraged. He bellowed, "Debus Hall? The descendant of Armian, attending Armian Academy, gets placed in Debus Hall instead of Bless or Ravidos? Unbelievable. If the late emperor were still alive, he'd rise from his grave and strangle every last one of them like a demon." Startled, Aint asked, "Why'd you suddenly bring up demons?" Gardner responded, "Because if this isn't the work of demonic interference, then what else could explain such absurdity? You make it sound like I'm blaming you." "Well, what can I say? I'm here because I'm weak," Aint replied calmly. Gardner roared, "Weak? The descendant of Armian? Who'd believe such nonsense?" Aint added thoughtfully, "To be fair, the first emperor does bear some of the blame." "What did you say?" Gardner exclaimed. "Think about it," Aint explained. He abolished hereditary succession and replaced it with an electoral system where 7 noble families choose the emperor. He also handed over lands and assets to the empire. The throne's been in other families' hands for over a century. Our lands are gone, the families declined, and we've even lost part of our secret swordsmanship. I may still be a nominal prince-elector, but I can't even master our own sword techniques." Gardner coughed awkwardly. "Still, you have potential. Aint, I will support you with everything I've got. You'll reclaim Armian's glory. Maybe the late emperor foresaw all this, that's why he entrusted you with me." Suddenly, a voice called from outside the door, "Aint Armian. Are you in there?" Gardner asked. "Someone's here to see you?" "Who is it?" Aint called back. "The upperclassman," the voice replied. Aint thought for a moment. "Upperclassman." He got up to open the door, and the moment he saw Fernan, he blinked in surprise. "What are you doing here?" Fernan smiled. "Busy?" "Not really, nothing urgent," Aint answered. "Then let me borrow some of your time." Seeing the hallway was quite crowded, Fernan added, "This place is too noisy. Let's go somewhere quieter, right now." Aint asked, "Give me 10 minutes to get ready." Fernan pretended to scold him, "Making your esteemed upperclassmen wait 10 whole minutes. Back in my day, even if you were sleeping, you'd run out in your underwear if a senior called for you. You newbies are so spoiled these days. 5 minutes. Aint quickly corrected himself. "I'll be out in 5, I promise." Fernan patted him on the shoulder. "I'll let you off this time. I'll wait outside the dorm." Once the door shut, Gardner exploded again. "What the hell is that pompous brat's problem?" "That's Fernan Pellenberg, eldest son of House Pellenberg," Aint explained as he got dressed. Gardner scowled. "Pellenberg? That nouveau rich family? Just because they have money, they think they can boss around royalty. Who do they think they are, calling out a descendant of the imperial family like that? The world's gone mad." As Aint buttoned his shirt, he thought, what could he want? Surely it's not about the potion, I mean, he said it was an investment, right? Fernan waited for Aint in the main hall. As soon as he saw him, he asked, "You brought your sword?" Aint scratched his head and explained, "Ah, yeah. I just feel calmer with it in my hand. I swear I didn't mean anything by it." Fernan nodded in understanding. I get it. Most knights won't part with their swords anyway. But deep down he thought, that sword must be the embodiment of Gardener Alfenparson. Then Ain't asked, so, why did you want to meet me, Sir Fernan? Fernan replied slowly. Oh, it's nothing. I just wanted to have a meal with you. A meal? Ain't echoed in surprise. Fernan smiled and nodded. Yeah, order whatever you like. Ain't waved his hands quickly. I'm fine, really. Besides, this place looks expensive, Fernan frowned. That old excuse again. You can't turn down an upperclassman. Back in my day, Ain't quickly gave in. Alright. I'm looking at the menu now. The two of them scanned the menu together. Fernan, watching Ain't closely, silently assessed him, naive and easy to sway. And yet this kid's the one who ends up overtaking me. The more I think about it, the more ridiculous it seems. Meanwhile, Ain't was breaking into a cold sweat just reading the prices. Everything was outrageously expensive. Then Fernan suddenly asked, Ain't, do you have any goals? Other than just graduating? The unexpected question caught Ain't off guard. He looked up and replied softly, Yes, I do. Fernan continued, Most people come to the academy to build connections. But your family has avoided any kind of social engagement. They say it's because Armian needs to be rebuilt. So I found it a bit strange that you enrolled here. Ain't's tone turned serious. I'm tired of being treated like some has been royal. Even if it's only nominal, Armian is still a royal house. Fernan paused, taken aback by the conviction in his voice. There it is. Ain't added firmly, I will become a royal knight and restore honor to my family. For a moment Fernan saw a different side of him. When Ain't spoke about his dream, his eyes burned with resolve and ambition. Fernan gave a half-hearted nod and replied, I see. So, have you picked a dish yet? Just like that, Ain't returned to his usual demeanor. Not yet, give me a second. He really takes pride in his bloodline, Fernan thought. Looks like he's not as easygoing as he seems. Changing the subject, Fernan asked, Ain't, do you have any dietary restrictions? Not really, Ain't replied. Fernan pressed on, then what's your MBTI? Ain't blinked. My what? Fernan headed straight home after the meal. He thought to himself, I've got a general sense of what kind of person Ain't Armian is now. I was going to sweet-talk him and bait him with funding, but I'm glad I didn't go through with it. Back at his desk, Fernan began analyzing his stocks. Ain't Armian appearance, potential intellect, assets, standout trait, extremely proud of his family. Confident. Values honor. Points to watch, underestimated. A super blue chip stock. Best for long-term investment. A top-tier asset for surviving the end of the world. He concluded, if I shove money in his face right now, it'll just hurt his pride. With people like him, slow and steady wins the race. I need to build trust bit by bit, insert myself into his life gradually. If I'm patient, when the time comes he'll come to me on his own. And when that happens, I'll just reel him in pure gold, a massive catch. I'll make him an ally, then squeeze every last drop out of him. Just then, Hyde entered the room. Young master, you're back. Where have you been? Fernan responded casually, just went to meet someone I know. Was it Burchef by any chance? Hyde asked, curious. Fernan raised an eyebrow. Burchef? Why are you bringing her up out of nowhere? Luina Burchef, Hyde reminded him. She came by today to talk about the debt issue. Fernan suddenly remembered. Ah, it was today, huh? Hyde sighed. If I'd known you'd be back so late, I would have sent her away. But I told her to wait. After 3 hours, she gave up and left. She probably thinks you stood her up to wear her down. Fernan reached for his coffee, his tone calm. All the better if she's discouraged. Took a lot of effort to tie that family down, so we need to keep them locked in tight. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness hit him. Fernan clutched his head and let out a groan. Hyde rushed over, worried. Young master. Are you all right? I'm fine, Fernan replied, wincing. Just a sudden headache. Then, strange lines of text began flashing in his mind. He was stunned. What is this, a prophecy? It's the part one couldn't read before. Why is it showing up now? Brown hair, soft as drifting clouds. Eyes the color of aquamarine, barely enough to describe a glimpse of that girl. Her swordplay is refined, elegant, noble, more vivid than anyone else's. Under the moonlight, Ain't was drawn to her dance. She certainly has the talent to become a royal knight, but within her heart lies a shadow. If those chains are broken, she'll be able to spread her wings and fly free. I want to break those chains for her, free her from House Pellenberg. That's Luina Berchev, isn't it? Fernand thought. Is that why Ain't hates me? He clutched his head and cursed under his breath. God damn it. Hyde, startled by the outburst, froze. Fernand quickly clarified. I wasn't talking about you. Luina Berchev sat waiting in the main hall, her thoughts churning. Fernand Pellenberg. He stood me up on purpose yesterday, and now has the one calling me in. I'm the one worried about this debt. She narrowed her eyes, wondering, is he planning to crush me completely? From a short distance behind her, Fernand silently observed. Just looking at her from behind, he could already feel her annoyance radiating. The Berchev family, once counts, had been powerful frontier guardians in the north of the empire, and were among the 7 noble electors. But their legacy had crumbled when a massive monster wave devastated the region. Their once proud heritage had been reduced to rubble. In a desperate bid to rebuild, the Berchevs had sold nearly everything they owned, including the official charter and the golden imperial seal that confirmed their elector status. And even that hadn't been enough. The one who stepped in to offer support at that time was none other than Duke von Pellenberg, the head of House Pellenberg, Fernand's father. Was it out of sympathy? No, Fernand thought grimly. House Pellenberg lacked talent in swordsmanship, and had long coveted exceptional sword techniques. Berchev's tragedy was the perfect opportunity. Father blocked other noble houses from lending Berchev aid, slowly forcing them into a mountain of debt. It was just enough to keep them from disappearing completely, but the annual interest alone left them gasping for air. If I push a little more, Fernand calculated, I might finally squeeze the sword techniques out of them. But fate had other plans. It painted Luina as the future lover of Ain't Armian. A detailed analysis of Luina Berchev showed that in terms of appearance, potential, heritage and intelligence, she was a standout. And most importantly, she was a debtor with the talent to become a royal knight, the future lover of Ain't Armian, and someone connected to the Armian family itself. Fernand considered this web of implications: restoring the family, saving the world, romance. Ain't just does whatever he wants, huh? He reminded himself, forget about the sword techniques. If Luina is connected to Ain't, I can't afford to have her hate me. With that resolve, Fernand approached and spoke politely. Luina Berchev, you came just in time for dinner. He offered a sincere apology. About yesterday, I'm really sorry. I got caught up with work and completely forgot our meeting. I promise it wasn't intentional. Luina looked mildly irritated. Well, those of us in weaker positions have to endure injustice, don't we? I told you. That's not what happened, Fernand protested. Sure, she said curtly, I'll pretend to believe you. It's not pretending, he replied, slightly exasperated. She looked at him seriously. Let's just get to the point. Why did you want to see me? Fernand smiled. Here goes, time to make a good impression. Phase 1 of the Luina Berchev charm strategy. He began, starting from second year, the magic and night departments will share some classes. No, Luina cut him off immediately. Fernand blinked. I haven't even said anything yet. How did you? She gently rotated her teacup and spoke calmly. You want me to be your partner, right? Why should I? Partnering with you gets me nothing. I'm ranked 2nd, and you're 10th. I've got better options. Seeing her resistance, Fernand offered a deal. If you agree to partner with me for the next 3 years, I'll waive all interest on your debt. But only if you also accept me as your sponsor. Luina was visibly surprised. Why would you do that? Because the shared class is worth 5 credits, he replied smoothly. She shook her head. No, that's not what I meant. Why are you not only asking to partner up, but also to sponsor me? In case you didn't know, I'm on a scholarship. Fernand answered with a composed smile. Yes, but you send almost all your money home. Everyone knows you live more frugally than a commoner. Aside from the dorm. This isn't anything dramatic, I just want to invest in your potential. Luina looked at him. Astonished. This is the first time I've heard of a noble sponsoring another noble. To Fernand, it was clear that Luina Berchev, like Ain't, was someone who valued dignity and integrity. He offered a gentle smile. Yes, Pellenberg and Berchev are both noble houses. But we're not exactly equals, are we? Inside, he was certain no matter how high Luina held her head, the Berchevs could never measure up to their past glory. Luina was furious. Are you mocking me? She snapped. Fernand smiled calmly, certain that unlike the proud Armian, he had managed to get a grip on her. No matter how much she hated him, or held a grudge against the Pellenberg family, she would have no choice but to accept his offer. This isn't the time to let pride get in your way, he told her. Your talent is no lie. Fernand's plan to win over Luina Burchev had entered phase 2. He smoothly shifted the topic. Actually, I saw you practicing sword dancing recently, he said. He recalled the prophecy, brown hair like drifting clouds. Aquamarine eyes, just vague clues barely enough to describe a corner of the girl's presence. Her swordplay was exquisite, noble, and brimming with life. Using those hints, he painted a vivid and romantic picture in his mind. Her swordsmanship was mesmerizing, refined, and full of elegance. Luina was stunned. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at him. Fernand locked eyes with her, and knew she couldn't possibly reject someone who recognized her talent. She stood frozen for a moment before stammering, "Are you saying?" Fernand abruptly stood and cut her off. "I'll never forget the first time I saw your sword dance." He raised a hand dramatically, and began reciting his over-the-top ode, the hymn of Luina Burchev's swordsmanship, composed by Fernand Pellenberg. "Begins now her blade, oh so graceful, elegant, noble and just. Swifter than light, and softer than a butterfly's wings. Each stroke of hers torments my thoughts night after night. I can no longer find sleep." Horrified, Luina screamed, "That's enough, stop. Please just stop." Fernand shouted back, "No, I can't." She was on the verge of collapsing. "Why not, you lunatic?" He leaned in close and repeated, "Because I can't find the words to describe the beauty of your swordsmanship." "Fine." Luina yelled, utterly defeated. "I'll be your partner, just please stop." And so, Fernand's plan to win Luina Burchev's favor had succeeded gloriously. Later that evening, back at the dorm, Luina told Serena, her caretaker, what had happened. Serena gasped. 3 years of interest-free loans, full sponsorship, and a confidentiality clause. All that just for being his partner for 3 years? Luina smiled. "Yeah, how could I say no? He said he saw potential in my sword dancing." "Potential?" Serena repeated, still puzzled. "He said it was graceful, elegant, noble, and just. And that he couldn't find words to describe its beauty," Luina added, quoting Fernand with a slightly embarrassed grin. Serena's forehead pulsed with visible veins as she exploded, "My lady. That money-hungry creep is clearly scheming something. Still, I'll admit he has a keen eye for talent." "Careful how you speak," Luina warned. "He's still the heir to Pellenberg." Serena flared up again. "Exactly. That damned Pellenberg hair is using flirtation tactics now. I bet he's trying to seduce you with those sharp, deep-set eyes of his. And don't even get me started on that wicked smile, Luina eyed her suspiciously. "Don't tell me, is he actually your type, Serena?" She laughed and said, "But really, I don't get the feeling he's trying to seduce me." "Suspicious? Sure. But with 3 years of loan-free support, the pressure on my family has eased up. I'll just have to endure it." Serena still looked frustrated. "But you're ranked 2nd in your class, and that guy is only ranked 10th. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Serena went to open it and found a tall man standing outside. "May I help you?" she asked. "I'm here on behalf of Lord Fernand Pellenberg," he replied. "He requests Lady Luina's presence at the training grounds immediately, if possible." Serena scowled. "So now we have to drop everything and run to him when he calls?" Luina blinked. "The training grounds. I'll let the lady decide," Serena answered curtly. But deep down, Luina couldn't help but feel a twinge of anxiety. Why would he want me at the training grounds? What is he up to now? Fernand slung his magic staff over his shoulder as he stepped into the training arena. From what he knew, Luina Burchev was consistently ranked 2nd in their class, right behind a second-year knight named Almond Donnertz, whom she had never managed to defeat. Still, people often whispered that she had the potential to become one of the 10 royal knights across the entire continent. She undoubtedly had the talent for it, but somewhere deep inside her heart, a shadow lingered. And today Fernand wanted to see for himself whether those rumors were true. Luina approached, sword in hand, her brow furrowed with confusion. "I don't understand," she said. "What is this about?" Fernand smiled. "I don't want you to think I'm just some burden," he replied. "So I'm going to show you that I'm not as weak as you think." "You're trying to prove that, by fighting me here and now?" she asked. "I mean, you're ranked 10th. Sure, living in the Ravados Tower proves your skills are noteworthy. But the gap between rank 2 and 10 is huge." Fernand remained undeterred. "Let's just give it a try," he said. Luina unsheathed her sword. "Fine, if that's what you want. I've been meaning to see what you're capable of anyway. I'll even let you make the first move." Raising his staff, Fernand said confidently, "With pleasure." He began chanting a spell, The orb atop his staff lit up with a brilliant glow, and a wave of mana rippled outward. His incantation echoed through the arena and Bani Batni Ryong, and in response, a barrage of ruby-colored stone formations erupted from the ground, surging toward Luina like missiles. She swung her sword with precise force, the air erupting with booming crashes. Her strength was undeniable. Each strike was fast, clean and powerful enough to obliterate nearly every incoming stone projectile. But just when she thought she had taken control of the situation, she noticed something had changed. Fernand's magic had shifted. She barely had time to turn around before she saw his reinforced magic array glowing with even more intensity than before. It was just a simple follow-up. His next attack had been supercharged while she was still busy with the first wave. Luina's eyes widened. Did he just damage the arena floor? She thought in disbelief. The entire surface was reinforced with strong enchantments strong enough to withstand a direct hit without a single crack. And yet now, it looked like the very floor was beginning to fracture. It hit her then. Fernand Pellenberg. He's been hiding his true strength all along. The orb on his staff blazed brighter, and his crimson eyes gleamed with smug satisfaction. The ground beneath them suddenly erupted as dense clusters of stone surged upward, relentlessly bombarding Luina. She struggled to fend them off, leaping into the air in a desperate attempt to avoid the onslaught. Her heart raced in panic. This can't be real. High-level magic spells cast one after another? And he's even using multicasting techniques. Just how much mana does this guy have? This wasn't the strength of someone ranked 10th. She had completely misjudged him. At this rate, I'm going to lose. Quickly regaining her focus, Luina conjured a protective barrier around herself. A vortex of power swirled, pushing back against Fernand's ferocious assault. He looked slightly surprised, then smiled. One section of the nearby wall crumbled under the intensity of the battle. Reinforcing his magic, Fernand launched another round of attacks. But Luina held her ground. With sword firmly in hand, she launched forward in a lightning-fast strike. Her power surged like a thunderstorm, unstoppable, overwhelming. In the blink of an eye, Fernand's staff hit the ground. Luina froze, her blade now resting just inches from his head. Fernand smiled and calmly said, "I concede." Luina snapped, "Are you mocking me?" But he simply replied, "I'm not mocking you. I've just run out of mana. A mage without mana can't possibly defeat a knight." She studied him for a moment. He didn't seem to be bluffing. He truly had exhausted his energy. He pushed me until I had to defend myself again and again, until he burned through everything. So this victory is mine. Yet, even as she thought this, she frowned and shook her head slightly. Why does this win feel so hollow? It doesn't feel like I actually beat him. Then Fernand suddenly reached into his coat. "Ah, I have something for you." He pulled out a small gift box and added, "Since you defeated me. You like chocolate, don't you? It's whiskey chocolate homemade by my family. It's really good." Luina's eyes sparkled. "Chocolate? I'm practically drooling already." Fernand chuckled. "If you don't like that kind, I also have Frieden's World Bark Chocolate. Or Kraken Ink Chocolate, specialty of the Frasian Kingdom. Just say the word. I've got everything." Something clicked in Luina's mind. "Wait, hold on." She narrowed her eyes. "Did you look into my personal profile?" Fernand gave her a cheeky look. "You've got chocolate on your lip, maybe clean that off before we talk." "But no, I didn't do it just for you. I checked the personal info of every top-ranked student." Luina shouted, "That is looking into my personal profile. And giving me chocolate because I won a duel? What? Do you think I'm a kid?" Fernand feigned surprise. "Really? I just thought you'd enjoy it. But hey, if you don't want it." He started to put the box away. Luina quickly snatched it from him. "I never said I didn't want it." He laughed warmly. "Great. Then let's get along from now on." He turned to leave, but Luina suddenly called out, "Wait." He stopped. What is it?" She looked serious now. "The amount of mana you possess, it's absurd. You were able to launch one brutal assault after another, without rest. I couldn't even guess at your limits. With that kind of power, why are you only ranked 10th? Fernand smiled. "Isn't it obvious? Merchants never step into the spotlight. A true enigma, hidden in plain sight." Fernand returned home with his staff slung over his shoulder. Seeing the tattered staff and a pile of broken components on the table, Hyde raised an eyebrow and asked, "What on earth happened here? Did you destroy the mana reservoir and the mana amplifier?" Fernand, rummaging through his coat, replied nonchalantly, "I had a duel with Luina. She's really strong." Even though I came well prepared, everything still got wrecked. Not only that, she pushed me to the point I ran out of mana, and she still stood tall until the end. He placed a small crystal orb on the table. Hyde let out a long, exasperated sigh. Why would you waste such valuable gear on a sparring match with Luina Berchef? Is she really worth it? Fernan answered calmly. It was an investment in the future. Hyde looked baffled. The future? Yeah, Fernan said vaguely. Something like that. Hyde mumbled to himself. Don't tell me the lightning strike scrambled his brain again. Fernan sat in silence, reflecting on the duel. It was beautiful. He thought back to Luina's swordplay, swift, fluid, even elegant in a noble way. Aunt Armian was right. Now he understood why his father had long coveted the Berchef family's secret sword techniques. Luina really does have talent. Standing nearby, Hyde murmured. Normally I can guess what you're thinking, young master, but this time I've got nothing. Meanwhile, Fernan was still lost in thought. But why has she never ranked first? Could it be her equipment? Suddenly, Heidi's loud voice jolted him back. Young master. What are you going to tell the Duke about all this? The Berchef sword style is his lifelong obsession. Fernan blinked. Oh, that. Honestly, I wasn't thinking about it at the time. But now that you mention it, I'm starting to worry. Think he'll disown me? Hyde gasped. Disown you? No way. He'll probably just kill you and get it over with. Fernan recoiled. Hey. I'm his own flesh and blood, you know. Hyde gave him a look that said, killing is faster than paperwork. Fernan said nervously. He wouldn't kill his own son just for messing up his plans, right? Regardless, he decided it would be best to write his father a letter explaining the situation with Berchef, and wait for a response. While writing, Fernan could already picture his father clutching his chest and collapsing from rage. After sealing the letter, his mind wandered into anxious thoughts. What if there's news about demons? What if father really decides to strangle me? A flood of unease came over him, but he tried to push it aside. Then, a few days later, the reply arrived. Fernan held the letter with a tense expression. That was faster than I expected. Hyde nodded gravely. Yes, the moment has come. Fernan asked, did he leave any personal message? Hyde shook his head. No message, but his expression says everything. Hyde looked as though he were about to cry. Fernan frowned. Why do you look like that? Hyde sniffled. I just have a gut feeling. This is the last day I'll get to serve you, young master. Fernan scoffed. Don't be dramatic. There's no way this is something I'd be disowned over. I clearly remember it was the Aunt Armian incident that got me disowned last time, for shaking hands with a demon. Hyde pulled out a handkerchief and burst into tears. My dearest friend. Why now, of all times? Fernan tried to calm himself. This time it has nothing to do with demons. It should be fine. Then he opened the letter. Inside was a single line: you've been possessed by a demon. Signed, disowned, Yvonne Pellenberg. Fernand's face froze. Hyde, I need to go see my father. Right now. Hyde blinked. What did the letter say? But Fernan wasn't listening. A demon? No way. How did this even happen? Could it be that book? His thoughts swirled in chaos. I can't tell him I have a prophetic book. That thing doesn't even exist physically, it's all in my head. There's no way to prove it. If I tell the truth, he'll think I'm some delusional merchant. Or worse, he'll assume I'm trying to tarnish the family's reputation. I need to offer something to make up for the Berchef mess, Fernan resolved, marching toward the Pellenberg estate. The butler greeted him with a bow. Please, this way, sir. All the while, Fernan was trying to find a solution. The book of prophecy, it's real, even if no one can see it. But how do I prove it? He knew the only way to avoid disaster was to present something valuable enough to balance the scales. He followed the butler to his father's study. As the door creaked open, Yvonne Pellenberg was seated behind his desk, pen in hand. He set it down and looked up at Fernan with a piercing gaze. You seem calmer than I expected. I thought maybe you'd inhaled something, lost your mind, or worse. His tone darkened. The demon slain by the late emperor has somehow returned and possessed my own son. If not that, then explain it. Why did you do it? Fernan remained composed. I decided to invest in the Berchef family, in a way I believe is more beneficial. Yvonne narrowed his eyes. More beneficial than a top-secret sword manual? Fernan hesitated, then said firmly, that's something I can't tell you. Yvonne's voice sharpened. Fernan, that wasn't a request. At this moment you're a disgrace, an idiot squandering our family's wealth. Fernand didn't flinch. He looked his father squarely in the eye. I understand. But my decision stands. If you give me full authority over the Birchef situation, I'm confident I can turn a greater profit than that sword manual ever could. Yvonne's gaze hardened. Is that so? Then let me ask you this again, where does that confidence come from? Fernand answered without wavering, I can't say. Suspicion clouded Yvonne's face. Ridiculous. I never taught you to act so recklessly. Do you not understand this isn't something you can fix with a few childish excuses? Fernand realized his father wouldn't budge. Just as I thought, I have no choice but to use the information from the prophecy as leverage. I didn't want to play this card so soon, but I'm out of options. He responded calmly, I'm not making childish excuses. In exchange for taking full responsibility for the Birchef situation, I'll give you a piece of information, something only I know. Yvonne tapped the desk with his fingers, then softened his tone. Information only you know? Fernand explained, you're aware that I've built my own intelligence network. His father gave a skeptical smirk. I suspect it's barely better than children playing pretend. But fine. Go on. What's this all-important intel of yours? Fernand leaned in slightly. To the west of the Aris mountain range, within the territory of Viscount Donnertz, there's an undiscovered mana stone mine. Yvonne straightened in surprise. A mana stone mine? I've never heard of any such site in that region. How did you find this out? Your immature little network. Sounds like a bunch of kids digging holes in the dirt. Fernand replied evenly, but it's often children who dig, and occasionally, they stumble upon a coin buried in the ground. He added, that location in Aris has enough potential to offset the entire Birchef loss. And then some. Those words made Yvonne's expression change. Fernand pressed on with conviction, it's a gold mine, father. Magic stone is a type of ore infused with mana, considered one of the most precious resources in the world. Naturally, that means it brings in money, a lot of money. However, the magic stone mine in the Aris Mountains was only vaguely mentioned in the prophecy, with no concrete details provided. I've never seen it with my own eyes, so I have no idea how big or small it actually is. But at the very least, it's enough to buy me some time. Fernand laid out his plan. The shipment run by House Donnertz had recently been lost in a storm, and their current financial situation was far from stable. If timed right, he could seize the mining rights to the magic stone deposit. Quietly, he also calculated the risk of the prophecy being exposed. He decided it was best to delay revealing anything about it for as long as possible. Yvonne said, if what you're saying turns out to be true, it could indeed make up for the losses you caused. But we'll need to verify everything. That will take time. For now, just focus on your studies. When we have results, I'll call you back. Fernand responded firmly, understood. He immediately turned to leave, though a sense of unease lingered in his heart. Did I really manage to calm him down? Why does it feel like I just shaved 10 years off my life expectancy? Suddenly, Yvonne called out, Fernand. Startled, Fernand stopped and turned back. Yes, father? His stomach twisted with anxiety. What now? Did I mess something up again? But his father simply said, while you're here, let's share a meal. I can't just keep sending you off like that. Fernand let out a quiet sigh of relief. Right, of course. The thick office door closed behind him. After Fernand left, Yvonne wasted no time reprimanding someone else. I'm rather disappointed in you. Even the Black Tortoise couldn't uncover what he just told me. Note to readers, the Black Tortoise is the intelligence division under Duke Pellenberg. Orlando, Yvonne's Yvonne. I'll have the entire thing reinvestigated from the top. Don't be too harsh, Yvonne advised. Take your time. He paused, then changed the subject. More importantly, what do you think of Fernand? Orlando chuckled. Sounds like you're looking to strike a deal with your own son. You've become quite the businessman, my lord. Still unsure, Yvonne mused aloud, I remain suspicious. I have no idea how he managed to discover that magic stone deposit. But we'll get to the bottom of it. Maybe we should bring in the mining surveyors. You mean the Golden Pillars? Orlando asked. Note, the Golden Pillars are Fernand's own intelligence unit. Yvonne analyzed the situation. Fernand understands the profit potential of minerals very well. That's exactly why, despite his natural talent for fire magic, he chose to specialize in earth magic instead. Of course, we still need to verify the intel. Orlando speculated. But there's a real possibility the young master truly does control the Golden Pillars. He may have even expanded the organization enough to access mineral veins others can't. Yvonne smiled in satisfaction. That boy has been obsessed with minerals since he was little. Who would thought he'd actually make something of that obsession? He glanced at the paper in his hand. A magic stone mine. Whose brilliant son is this, anyway? But then his expression hardened. He gave an additional order. One more thing. Investigate that girl Luina Burchev. I want to know exactly what she did to charm my son. Orlando asked. You believe the young master has fallen for Luina Burchev? Yvonne replied calmly. I've said my piece. Now go. If there's no profit, we don't invest. But if there is profit, then you damn well put money down. He paused briefly before adding, and if you're investing with no clear reason, then your eyes must be set on something else. If it's not youthful love, then what is it? Still, I can't shake the feeling that this isn't everything. That money-obsessed brat, what exactly did he choose in the end? In the grand hall, Luina was enjoying a large cup of ice cream when Fernan asked, so, Alia Tortega partnered up with Carlos Deniv. She nodded and replied, yeah, Carlos chose Alia right after I said I'd be classmates with you. Curious, Fernan continued. Alia Tortega, she's ranked 4th in the night division, right? Luina nodded again. She used to be ranked 5th, but she's improved dramatically. Fernan pressed on, you told Carlos you were partnering with me. She replied casually. The rumors are already spreading. No point hiding it. Everyone's going to find out sooner or later. People are already saying I partnered with you for money, everyone's guessing that. I just have to face it. And, well, it's not entirely untrue. Fernan smiled. Well, I really do like money. Luina thought to herself. Unbelievable. No wonder people call him a money maniac. Honestly, that's exactly why I hate him. Suddenly, Fernan pulled something out and said, here, take this. She looked at him, surprised. What is it? He handed over a small package. A potion and an exchange voucher. The potion's brewed from mandrake root, and the voucher can be used at a weapon shop owned by my family's company. You can trade it in for high-end gear. Luina looked at the valuable items and said firmly, I can't accept these. I won't be able to return them. Fernan reminded her, did you forget the contract we signed? The sponsorship agreement. She replied bluntly, even if that's true, giving me something made by Golden Tortoise Trading is way too much. This is more like a gift. Don't you think you're overdoing it? Golden Tortoise, that's your Pellenberg family's firm. Fernan chuckled and nodded. Luina continued, judging from your reaction, even you think so. But he responded confidently, no. In his heart, however, he admitted, yeah, I'm definitely overdoing it. But if this is what it takes to win her over, and avoid becoming a beggar in the future, then it's a bargain. And if she becomes strong enough to fight demons by my side, then it's more than worth it. Luina still refused. No, it's too much. I really can't accept it. Fernan calmly replied, refusing sponsorship would be a breach of contract. That's a valid reason to void the deal. And the penalty is probably, Luina quickly interrupted, panicked. Fine. I'll take it. Fernan stood up. Great. I'll see you in class. I've got a few things to take care of. I'll head over later. As he walked away, Luina sat there worried. Even if it's a sponsorship, this stuff is just way too expensive. Then a thought crossed her mind. Wait, was there a penalty clause in the contract? She mentally tried to recall the terms. Was there one? No, I'm pretty sure there wasn't. Suddenly, a wave of dread hit her. Wait a second, he lied to me. He tricked me into accepting these things. Is he really trying to win me over just to steal my sword techniques like the nanny warned? Go ahead and try. But don't dream of ever succeeding. Meanwhile, the first-year night division class was starting. Fernan stood on a balcony, watching from afar. He muttered to himself, Ain't Armian should be here for this class. Where is he? A moment later he spotted him. Ain't was standing with a group of students across the sparring grounds. This was the first class for first-year night division students, War and Real Combat, a class infamous for evaluating students through friendly duels. According to the prophecy, ever since Ain't Armian acquired the sword infused with the soul of Gardner Alphenparson, he began to shine and gain fame. And this marked the beginning of his journey as the savior hero. Suddenly someone nearby spoke up. Hey, who's that over there? Fernan turned around and immediately recognized the voice. No way, he saw someone approaching and was surprised to see him here. Didn't expect to see you here, Fernan Pellenberg. Fernan quickly greeted him. How have you been, Your Highness? The man clapped him on the shoulder with a friendly grin. Hey, calm down. Just because we haven't seen each other since second year doesn't mean you need to be so formal. Fernan explained. It's the first time we've met again since moving up a grade. I thought it would be proper to at least say hello. Ludger, curious, asked, so, what's going on here? Got your eye on any new students? Fernan replied slowly. I'm keeping a close watch on the ranking board. What about you, Your Highness? Then he asked more directly, you came here for Ain't Armian, didn't you? Ludger made no effort to hide it. Of course. He's part of the old royal family, after all. In the past 100 years, no one from the House of Armian has ever enrolled at this academy. So naturally, his presence stirs up curiosity, right? Fernan thought to himself, Ludger Schwaben, second prince of the current ruling imperial family, the House of Schwaben. They've held the throne for 3 generations, since being elected royalty 100 years ago. While they share common ancestry with the Armian line, the relationship between the current royal family and the old royal house has grown tense. Moreover, Ludger is a man who deeply values power and wants the Schwaben bloodline to continue ruling. That makes Ain't Armian, a bearer of purer royal blood, a serious threat. Suddenly, Ludger looked down at someone below and said, I think he is just as curious about Ain't Armian. Fernan looked in the same direction and gasped, wait, is that Varen Kalbunder? Ludger confirmed, yes. He got into the Knight Division as the runner-up this year. The Kalbunder family is eyeing the spot that the fallen Armian line used to hold among the 7 elector families. Maybe that's why he's been staring so intently at Ain't all this time. Could that be why he's been staring so intently at Ain't Marmion all this time? Fernan recognized Varen Kalbunder. So it really is him. What a coincidence. Perhaps this was the very beginning of the connection between Ludger and Varen. In every epic tale, there's always a villain the hero must overcome to grow stronger. And in this case, Varen seemed obsessed with Ain't, the prophesied hero. Defeat him. Prove to everyone that the past is just that, the past. I see it now. Ain't Armian, I will sever the last root of the Armian bloodline. Varen Kalbunder was destined to be the next rival. Right then, Professor Grad called out. After Anton Dennern, next up is Ain't Armian. Fernan glanced at the scene below and mused. Ludger Schwaben and his lackey, Varen Kalbunder, both happen to be here today. We are witnessing the true beginning of the hero's journey. Could this be fate? How exciting. Let's see how this goes. Professor Grad raised his hand to signal the match. Alright, here we go. In Fernand's mind, the image from the prophecy played out vividly. Ain't Armian standing victorious, the crowd erupting in cheers. He won. Ain't defeated Anton Dennern. At that very moment, the name Ain't Armian began to truly spread among students and faculty alike. Both Ludger and Varen were visibly shocked. Fernan, on the other hand, was filled with exhilaration. Could this prophecy prove that I was right to invest in Ain't after all? Professor Grad gave the signal. Begin. And to move first, fast, dangerously fast. Ain't felt a flicker of panic and instinctively raised his sword to block the strike. But Anta followed up immediately with a sweeping slash aimed at Ain't's neck. Ain't jumped high to avoid it, then tried to land safely. Just a few exchanges in, he was already breathing heavily. Ludger commented with a smirk. I heard the matchups were randomly assigned. That Ain't Armian kid is seriously unlucky. Anta Dern ranked 10th in the entrance exam. Ain't? All the way down at 38th. This was a mismatch from the start. The fight grew more intense with every passing second. Ludger sighed. He's getting crushed out there. Well, he is ranked 38th. I wasn't expecting much. Still, what a boring match. He gave Fernan a pat on the shoulder. Nothing worth watching here. I'm heading out. But Fernand's gaze remained locked on the arena. Not quite nothing, he murmured. Hem. Ludger raised an eyebrow. Down below, Ain't suddenly lashed out with a rapid thrust. Anta barely managed to step back in time, but the tip of Ain't's sword sliced clean through his shirt. Anta froze, staring at the tear in disbelief. The crowd erupted. What? Anta couldn't counter that. No way. He's ranked 10th. Ain't Armian. That Ain't Armian. Even Varen looked caught off guard. Fernan thought to himself. He must been overwhelmed by Ain't's aggressive offense. That kind of hesitation shows a lack of experience. But if Ain't regains his composure and strikes back, he could flip the entire fight. Anta gritted his teeth and gripped his sword tightly. He was furious. You? Ranked 38? And you think you can beat me? He drew in a breath, then summoned his mana. A crimson whirlwind burst into life around him. One student whispered. Ain't doing better than I expected. But Anto's still gonna win, right? Another scoffed. Yeah, well, lasting this long is already impressive for someone ranked 38. That's something, I guess. A girl sneered. Something. Please. He's still just ranked 38. Ludger, however, smiled faintly, his interest piqued. Didn't expect a low ranker like him to push someone in the top 10 into using their mana. I suppose the Armian name might not be entirely wasted. Even if he lacks talent, his effort is commendable. Fernan heard this and narrowed his eyes. Lacks talent? Ain't Armian? Not a chance. It's not that he lacks ability. He's just never had an environment that nurtured his potential. Back in the arena, Ain't was desperately fending off Anto's attacks. Even though the odds were against him, he showed no signs of giving up. To Fernan, Ain't was different. He was the one chosen by the prophecy. The protagonist of this world. Ain't suddenly appeared behind Anto, and in the blink of an eye, Anto's sword was flying through the air. He collapsed to the ground. Professor Grad shouted, "Winner ain't Armian." Ain't raised his sword in triumph, his face glowing with joy. Varen scowled in irritation, while the rest of the students erupted in cheers. He did it. Ain't beat Anto Dern. Fernan couldn't help but smile. Just as I predicted. The prophecy is real. I didn't back the wrong person, I can already hear the money rolling in. He started plotting. As long as I guide him right, and turn him into an ally. Ludger stood frozen, still struggling to believe what had just happened. Ain't actually won. Fernan whistled. Next up, I'll try to recruit Luina. In the shared lecture hall, whispers spread as students noticed Fernan and Luina sitting together. Are they actually a couple? One student asked. Why would Luina accept that? Is it for the money? Another speculated. Fernan leaned his chin on his hand and muttered, how annoying. We're getting way too much attention. I don't like being the center of it. Luina replied calmly, just ignore them. They'll stop eventually. Changing the subject, Fernan asked, by the way, did you drink the elixir I gave you? Did you switch to the new gear? Do you like it? Luina paused for a moment, debating whether to tell him just how thrilled she'd been after upgrading her equipment. Serena had even exclaimed, "Oh my god, miss, you look amazing." And after drinking the elixir, her whole body had felt bursting with energy. But she couldn't just blurt all that out, so she answered with a reserved, "It's not bad." Just then, the professor walked into class. Is everyone here? She asked. With her was another tall, imposing professor. Taking the podium, she continued, "Looks like everyone has a partner. No one's late, right? I'm Professor Rosalia from the Magic Department. And as you already know, this is Professor Grad from the Night Department. From now on, our departments will hold joint lessons. Let's get started. You've all received maps from the teaching assistants, yes?" Fernan was handed a scroll. Professor Rosalia cast a spell, activating a formation. "Today's first lesson will be an outdoor exercise," she said. Professor Grad then took over, explaining, "There's no better way to test your knowledge than with real combat. Starting now, you'll be thrown into a field test. Your goal is marked on the map, and you must reach it in exactly 4 hours, no sooner, no later. That means 2 p.m. sharp. Any questions?" A male student raised his hand. "Will this affect our grades?" Professor Grad answered, "It's the most important assessment outside of the midterms and finals." Another student asked, "Are we allowed to fight?" Professor Rosalia replied, "If you capture someone else, you'll earn bonus points. If there are no more questions, let's begin," she announced. The students looked at each other, confused. Wait, what? Before anyone could react, the assistant standing near Fernan activated a teleportation formation, flooding the room with blinding light. Rosalia called out, "Then I wish you all good luck." All the students were teleported into a secret realm. Fernan and Luina landed in a sparse forest. Looking around, Fernan asked, "Where are we?" Luina answered, "We have to figure that out ourselves." She quickly remembered, "Let's check the map first." Suddenly they heard voices up ahead and saw 2 classmates approaching, a red-haired girl and a frail-looking boy. "Luina, Fernan." "Hello," the girl called out. Fernan recognized them, Jane Hux and Ned Paulin. "Both ranked outside the top 70, right?" Luina asked, "So, what do we do?" Fernan replied casually, "Do we really need to bother with low-ranked nobodies like them?" Offended, Jane and Ned shouted, "Low-ranked nobodies." Fernan glanced at Luina and added normally, "I'd say that and walk away. But this time I'll go with whatever you decide." Her eyes lit up. Good. Gripping her sword, first declared first, let's secure the bonus points. Then we'll check the map and figure out where we are. Fernan asked, wouldn't it be easier to use magic? Luina blinked in surprise. There's a spell to find your position. He clarified. No, I meant climbing somewhere high and looking around. She gave him a flat look. How's that any different from just looking at the map? Shrugging it off, she said, never mind. Let's get past those bushes first. Seeing the two of them distracted, Ned whispered to Jane, now's our chance run. But after only a few steps, Luina appeared in front of them. We need those bonus points. Where do you think you're going? She said, raising her sword. Jane and Ned screamed in panic. Just as Luina's blade was about to strike, a defensive barrier activated, shielding them. Her sword pierced into the map scroll instead. Fernan realized, wait, the maps the assistants gave us, do they have protection spells on them? Luina nodded. Yeah, if I'd known I wouldn't have held back. Fernan shouted, that's what you call holding back. You were swinging like you meant to kill them. On the monitoring board, the profiles of Jane Hux and Ned Palin from the Department of Magic, ranked 77th, slowly disappeared. Professor Grad exclaimed. Another team's been eliminated. People are dropping faster than I expected. Rosalia frowned slightly, strange though. No one's been taken out by monsters, every single disqualification was due to internal conflict. Grad, seizing the moment, asked, by the way, Professor Rosalia, are there any teams you're particularly keeping an eye on this time? Rosalia glanced at the magic formation and replied slowly. If we go by the scoreboard alone, Ludger Schwaben and Alain Donnertz are the strongest pair. Carlos Deneuve and Alia Tortega are also worth watching. But the pair I'm most interested in without a doubt is Luina Berchef and Fernan Pellenberg. Grad nodded in recognition. Ah, that pair really did cause a stir among the students. Poor Luina though. Partnering with him must been for the money, right? But Fernan doesn't even seem to care about scoring. Rosalia smiled. There might be another reason he chose to pair with Luina. Grad looked surprised, not for the score. Exactly, Rosalia confirmed. Fernand's a student who can raise his rank anytime he wants. He doesn't need a partner. Grad was puzzled. He can raise his rank anytime. What do you mean? Rosalia explained, he's always ranked exactly 10th. Not higher, not lower. That alone is odd. Sure, top students aiming for first place isn't rare. But deliberately staying in 10th place every time. A little too calculated. Just look at the current rankings. Carlos Deneuve is first, Ludger Schwaben is second, Daisy Harn third, Jean Brad fourth, Neria Hoffman fifth, Peter Roman sixth, and Fernan Pellenberg, as always, 10th. What's more, Fernand's theoretical exam scores are nearly perfect. But he always loses just enough points in the practicals to keep him from ranking any higher. Just enough to stay in Ravido's tower. I always thought he was the type who hated standing out, Grad muttered. That's what he wanted everyone to think. Rosalia replied. Do you remember the recent incident with the destroyed training grounds? The professors were in a frenzy trying to find the culprit. Turns out it was caused by Fernan and Luina. Grad's eyes widened. What? They're the ones who wrecked the training field? No student should have that kind of power. Rosalia smiled, exactly. Which is why I'm all the more curious. Grad asked, curious about what? Why he hides his strength. Rosalia shook her head. No. I want to know why he stopped hiding it. Meanwhile, within the trial formation, Fernan stood atop a mountain peak, map in hand, surveying the surrounding terrain. The spot marked on the map is the northern coast. I must be somewhere close. Below him, frantic screams echoed. It was Luina. Help. Luina Berchef, you're evil. I know scores matter, but this is. Fernan casually scouted the path while Luina took care of all the obstacles. So this must be the Western Mountains, he deduced. Luina called up to him, I'm done on this side. What about you, got the next destination figured out? Fernan leapt down in front of her and nodded. Yeah, we head northeast from here. We'll probably run into a few teams on the way. Luina grinned. Great. Fernan asked, planning to challenge the next pair already? Brushing her bangs aside, she replied, of course. There's still plenty of time. Might as well rack up some bonus points. Suddenly a massive boulder came crashing down from above. Fernan swiftly blocked it with his magic staff. A voice rang out. Well, look who we have here, Fernan Pellenberg. It was a familiar face, Carlos Deneuve, alongside Alia Tortega. Luina scowled. An ambush from behind. And you call that honorable? Carlos remained unfazed. There's no such thing as dishonor in real combat. Didn't the professor say this was a real-life simulation? His staff glowed fiercely, magical energy radiating outward. Did you really think I'd let you walk away after running into me this early? Let's go. His face was visibly tense, furious even. Luina was confused. Why is Carlos Deneve so angry? Fernand guessed. He probably begged you to pair up with him, didn't he? Bet his pride took a hit when I got you first. He's still bitter about it. So petty. Luina frowned. Got me. That's a laugh. I don't belong to anyone. Upon hearing those words, Carlos looked visibly awkward, caught completely off guard. Fernand mocked him, someone your size, acting like a child, how embarrassing. Carlos's face turned red with rage, his voice cracking as he shouted, enough with the nonsense. Let's fight already. Fernand shrugged. Looks like this battle is unavoidable. Luina chimed in, that's fine by me. Taking down a high-ranking pair will earn us more bonus points. But since they're one of the top teams, you can't just stand around and watch this time. Fernand sighed. I know. I'll back you up, so go ahead and fight at full strength. Luina didn't seem entirely convinced by her partner's words. She narrowed her eyes and said, back me up. Don't overexert yourself. We've barely coordinated a single move. What kind of support are you even talking about? He smiled reassuringly. You and I are a team. Fighting solo won't get us anywhere, right? Don't worry. As he spoke, Fernand began weaving a formation, causing rocks and soil around them to levitate into the air, quickly surrounding their opponents. The mana he released grew stronger by the second, illuminating the battlefield. He raised his voice and called out, just trust me. Outside the lecture hall, Professor Rosalia suddenly sensed a major disturbance. There seems to be quite a large-scale clash happening over there. The Western Mountain region, Grad muttered. Have the students already started fighting monsters? She quickly ran a check and discovered that no monsters had appeared in that area. Let's take a closer look. The projection of the Western Mountain section expanded on the screen. Grad exclaimed, looks like the two teams you mentioned earlier have run into each other. Professor Rosalia's eyes lit up. My goodness, two top-ranking teams clashing like this now, this is going to be exciting. Grad smiled. Perfect. Fernand Pellenberg, I'll finally get to witness your true capabilities. Inside the rift, the battle between Fernand's team and Carlos's was growing more intense. Both sides had already charged into close combat, fighting at full force. Suddenly, Luina felt something strange. Why does my body feel so light? She wondered. A thought struck her, is this support magic? When did he cast it? She glanced over at Fernand. One hand gripped his staff while the other was busy weaving a support formation. She was stunned. He's casting support spells in the middle of combat? Noticing her surprised look, Fernand winked, as if to say, cool, right? Luina's expression twisted in disbelief. Is this guy insane? Suddenly, Alia lunged with a quick strike, her sword slicing through the air toward Luina. Luina leapt into the air to dodge. She immediately returned to her battle stance. Can't lose focus. First I need to take out Alia. She swung her sword in a heavy counterattack. Boom. Alia raised her blade to block the hit. Her arms trembled from the impact. Luina's strength was truly overwhelming. Then, out of nowhere, Fernand shot a stream of light at Luina. Her entire body seized up, she couldn't move a muscle. Her sword arm went rigid. What the hell is this? Luina panicked. My body won't move. Alia instantly noticed something was wrong and grinned. Got you now. Luina gritted her teeth. You think this is over? Think again. Alia dashed forward, channeling her energy into a powerful slash aimed directly at the immobilized Luina. But shockingly, her blade hit a boulder instead. What the? Alia gasped. Then where's Luina? Even Luina herself was confused. What just happened? Why am I suddenly next to Fernand? She turned to him. What was that? Fernand grinned sheepishly. Oh, that. A new spell my family developed. I figured it'd be useful, so I learned it right away. It swaps two objects of equal weight. Luina's eyes widened in horror. Wait, how the hell do you know my weight? From the student records, of course, Fernand replied casually. And that boulder looked heavy, but it wasn't actually that bad. With a snarl, Luina grabbed Fernand by the collar and leapt high into the air. She slashed the boulder into pieces and landed forcefully. We're going to talk about this later. And I'm burning those records to ash. Please be gentle. Fernan cried. You're doing this on purpose. With a thud, Luina threw him back. Fernan shouted, would it kill you to carry me down properly for once? Luina shouted back, I'll take care of Alia. You focus on Carlos. Fernan dusted himself off, muttering, how many more times am I going to get thrown around today? This is so embarrassing. As he reached for his staff, he suddenly noticed a massive magic formation forming in the sky. His eyes lit up. That Carlos, I was wondering when he'd finally use that move. Carlos's signature technique, a torrential lightning storm summoned from above Dini's wrath. A towering column of light formed by dozens of bolts striking at once. It was a multi-layered spell, devastatingly powerful, far beyond normal student-level combat, and the very reason Carlos ranked first in the Night Division. Fernan reached inside his robe. Let's see, I did come up with a way to counter this. He pulled out 2 large magic crystals. Time to test it out. Let's see how well this works. He began chanting, and the crystals started absorbing and diverting the smaller arcs of lightning, slowly infiltrating Carlos's magic circle. Meanwhile, Carlos, fully focused, felt something off. Something's interfering with the spell. Explosions roared through the air as Carlos' massive spell formation collapsed with a thunderous crash. Kernan. Carlos shouted furiously. Smoke and debris billowed everywhere, swirling into a thick, blinding fog. Moments later, as the dust began to settle, Fernan emerged from the haze, calmly dusting off his robe, a faint smile playing on his lips. Success, he muttered with satisfaction. Carlos stared in disbelief. You blocked it? That's impossible. How did you? Fernan tossed 2 large crystals onto the ground in front of him. These are mana storage devices, he said. They can absorb magical energy. Still brushing ash off his clothes, he added casually. Of course I had to modify them a little. Costly and pretty tough to make. But as you can see, totally worth it. If I refine the design and start mass production, they could be a commercial hit. Inwardly, he was already laughing. Hey, I smell money. Carlos, now red with anger, shouted back. Using magical tools is cowardly. It's cheating. Fernan raised an eyebrow. Cowardly? In a real combat exam? He shrugged. You forget we're supposed to survive out here. Carlos fell silent, unable to argue. Fernan then called out loudly, Luina. The shout startled Carlos. Shit, Alia. He whipped around. But it was too late. Finish it. Fernan ordered. Luina's eyes flashed with cold fury. Without hesitation, she swung her sword with deadly force, striking Alia down and ending the battle in a single, decisive blow. Not far away, another pair, Ludger Schwaben and Alon Donnertz, had already sensed the commotion. Out of the 4, Ludger said, only 2 remain. Alon nodded. That means someone's already been eliminated. The assistants will teleport them out any second now. Alon shook his head. There's no way any student could block Carlos's lightning spell. Looks like Fernan Pellenberg and Luina Burchev are out of luck this time. But Ludger gave a faint smile. No, this is Fernan and Burchev we're talking about. Fernan's always hated standing out, he continued. He's been hiding his real strength this whole time. But once he got paired with Burchev, he couldn't keep doing that. She's obsessed with grades. He had no choice but to keep up with her pace. If Fernan went all out, there's no doubt he'd climb the ranks. He looked ahead, eyes cold. In my social circle, if my rank drops even slightly, they'll trample me without hesitation. That's why I can't let a threat like him rise unchecked. Behind him stood a small group of students, his loyal followers, ready to act on command. Ludger turned to them. As long as you stick with me, I'll get you safely to the designated zone. And like I promised, you'll rank high in this exam. But he added sharply, there's one pair that needs to be eliminated first. Luina Burchev and Fernan Pellenberg. Bring them in alive. A powerful slash cut clean across the beast's body. Luina had taken it down in an instant. Looks like we made it in time, she said. At this rate, we might actually finish first. She glanced over at Fernan, who was busy collecting loot from the battlefield. Walking up to him, she asked, do you really think that's necessary? Fernan replied without looking up. Giant demon blood is one of the main ingredients for crafting recovery potions. I know that, she said. But compared to your wealth, that stuff is basically pocket change. He nodded. Even if it's just pocket change, it's still money. If I can grab it, I will. She sighed. That's why everyone says you're greedy. Fernan remained unfazed. Thanks to that greed I was able to recruit you. So I'd say it worked out pretty well. Luina rolled her eyes and changed the subject. If you're done, let's keep moving. Fernan asked, how many teams have we taken down so far? She lit up. 7 or 8, no, 8. I'm counting on a huge bonus. He shook his head. You're completely obsessed with points. Better than being obsessed with money, she fired back. Besides, I've got a damn good reason to become the top student. Suddenly, Fernan looked up toward the sky. Yeah, I'm sensing a lot of them. At least 20, and that's a low estimate. And it feels like all of them are heading our way. Before the words even left his mouth, a group of opponents dropped down from above, launching a full-scale ambush. Fernan instantly cast a spell to counter, but they quickly separated the two of them. A group swarmed Fernan, while Alon charged straight at Luina, blade in hand. She was momentarily surprised to recognize him, Alon Donertz. She immediately raised her sword to block his strike. The clash of power sent a shockwave through the air, forcing both of them to stumble back a few steps. Without missing a beat, they dove into a fierce battle. Luina fought without holding back, while Alon was clearly aiming to capture her alive. Sparks flew from their blades as they clashed with growing intensity. Suddenly, Ludger appeared, rising into the air. He gathered mana and launched a massive fire attack toward Fernan. In the middle of fending off his attackers, Fernan was caught off guard. Seriously? Playing sniper from the sky, he muttered. Alon paused mid-fight when he saw Ludger step in. The look on Ludger's face was full of confidence. Let's see how you plan to get out of this one. But Fernan didn't flinch. He stood his ground and blocked Ludger's assault head-on. The two mages collided, unleashing such intense mana that it caused a massive explosion. Everyone nearby felt the air sucked from their lungs. Ludger landed with a grin. Damn, I was just gonna watch. But you wiped out half the group chasing me in a blink. Can you dial it down a little? You're being way too aggressive, definitely not your usual style. Fernan knew exactly what Ludger was doing, trying to act like some untouchable king behind the curtain. I just want to see what it's like to be ranked number 1, for once. Fernan replied bluntly. Ludger chuckled. Number 1. Not happening. How about we negotiate instead? You know there's less than an hour left in this exam, right? If we fight now, neither of us will make it to the finish in time. So how about this? Let me and Alon take first place, and you guys settle for second. Win-win, yeah? Fernan was still thinking it over when Luina snapped, I'd rather lose in battle than hand over first place without a fight. He shrugged and turned to Ludger. You heard her. My partner's not interested in a deal. Ludger snorted. So much for negotiations. Fine then, let's see what you've got, Fernan. He began building mana again. The sheer combined power of Ludger's group far surpassed Fernan's side. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. Fernan was an earth element mage. With a smirk, Fernan said, yeah, maybe next time. Ludger suddenly sensed something was wrong, but it was too late. A glowing formation lit up beneath their feet. The ground trembled violently as chunks of earth and stone rained down from above. It's a trap. Ludger shouted. Everyone run. A massive boulder crashed down with a thunderous boom. Fernan clapped Luina on the shoulder. Come on, time to run. As they retreated, she grumbled, seriously? You had something like that and didn't use it sooner. I'm exhausted, okay? He huffed. And besides, it doesn't last long anyway. The trial had come to an end. All the students gathered at the designated finish point, where Professor Grad praised them. Well done, everyone. Now, I'll announce the rankings for this test. First place, Luina Berchev and Fernan Pellenberg. Gasps rippled through the group. Students broke into murmurs and chatter. Seriously, wasn't it supposed to be Ludger and Alon? Fernan smiled in quiet satisfaction, while Luina wore an unmistakably proud expression. Second place, Ludger Schwaben and Alon Donertz. The two stood, covered in mud, clearly not pleased with the outcome. Third place goes to Fernan, turned to Luina with a smirk. Looks like we really did take first place. But Luina didn't look entirely convinced. Though they had both performed well, a lingering doubt clouded her sense of victory. Honestly, it doesn't feel like we fully earned it. We didn't defeat Alon. I never expected we'd be first. Fernan shrugged. First is first. Whether we beat them or not, it doesn't change that. Right? She paused. Then admitted, of course. This is the first time I've ever ranked at the top. It feels incredible. Fernan grinned brightly. Deep inside he thought, the strategy worked. Professor Grad gave final instructions. That concludes the test. We'll be returning to the academy soon, so don't wander off too far. Out of the blue, Luina turned to Fernan. By the way, you know the new student, ain't Armian, right? Of course. Who doesn't know someone from Armian? Fernan replied. Luina recalled, I actually ran into him the other night literally. I was training late when we crossed paths. It reminded me of that one time you secretly watched me practice sword dancing. That last line made Fernan freeze in place. His hand went to his face, rubbing it over and over, clearly rattled, to Luina's surprise. Suddenly strange glowing symbols appeared before his eyes. A prophecy. A new fragment had been revealed, one so shocking it left Fernan speechless. Blood-red skies. Thick toxic air, suffocating to breathe. A terrifying demon, its presence like a warning of catastrophe, aimed straight at Ain't Armian. And in front of him stood a lone knight, brave and unyielding, shielding him from harm. Fernan felt it in his core, the story had shifted. Then came more words of prophecy. Senior, what are you doing? Ain't Armian, you once asked me, didn't you? Asked me to become your knight. I refused you then. But not anymore. Now I know who you are. I know what you're fighting for. This is my destiny. A knight is a sword that cuts down the enemy of their master, and a shield that protects them. Luina charged forward, straight at the demon Andromalius, her body surrounded by a radiant blue aura. Fernan blinked in confusion. Why is the prophecy changing again? Scene shift. Luina lay in a hospital bed, her body covered in wounds. Ain't clutched her hand, a look of fierce relief on his face. Thank the heavens. I'm glad you're all right. You're in the infirmary. Please, Senior, listen to me, don't misunderstand. His eyes burned with rage as he continued. Those bastards want to drag you and the Berchef family down. It's the Pellenbergs. Isn't it? Those damn rich parasites. Son of a Fernan cursed. How dare you speak about a senior like that, you little. A voice called out urgently, Fernan. He jolted awake. It was all a dream. Luina leaned over, concern written all over her face. Are you okay? You passed out all of a sudden. How are you feeling? Fernan sat up slowly. I'm fine, really. I fainted. Professor Rosalia stepped forward, gently advising, Fernan, maybe you should visit the infirmary. You might have overexerted yourself, especially with that kind of power you're not used to yet. But Fernan wasn't just tired. He was deeply troubled. And it was from this moment on that Ain't Armian began seeing me as an enemy. He remembered the pain in Ain't's eyes, the fury in his voice. Pellenberg, those damn rich parasites. That's just like a hopeless romantic, spouting dramatic lines like that. But what puzzled Fernan the most, why did I receive another prophecy? And why is everything revolving around Luina? Is it showing me what's to come? And if that's the case, that name in the prophecy, Andromalius, one of the 72 demons, is he really going to descend upon this world? And in the near future? Class ended, and Fernan wearily stepped out of the school gates. Hyde was already waiting by the carriage, greeting him with a cheerful tone. Well done, young master. I heard you took first place. Fernan climbed into the carriage and replied, I burned through a massive amount of energy. I'm dead tired. Hyde nodded and suggested, you should try to get some rest. I'll wake you once we arrive at the Labidas Hall. The carriage quickly rolled away. Fernan couldn't sleep. His mind kept turning over thoughts about a being named Andromalius, ranked 72nd among the 72 demons. Black hair and black eyes. Humanoid in appearance, with a snake coiled around his right arm. Even after scouring every book he could find, that was all the information available. Well, it had been over 1,000 years since the Demon Wars, so the lack of details made sense. In this age, demons were regarded as mere folklore. They had been completely wiped out by the first emperor, and since then, none had ever reappeared in this world. Still, Fernan wasn't too worried Ain't would be able to handle it. But there was a bigger concern. Luina would be severely injured in the battle against Andromalius. He wondered whether he should warn her. But even if he did, would she believe him? He had tried mentioning it once before. That day after class, Luina had asked, Fernan, are you really okay? He replied, I'm fine. But more importantly, Luina, do you believe demons actually exist? She gave him a surprised look and asked why he was suddenly bringing up demons. Fernan's tone turned serious. Just answer me. Do you believe in them? She replied, Of course I do. This empire was founded after defeating the demons after all. Fernan pressed further, Then what if I told you that demons still exist on this land? Luina didn't respond immediately. Instead, she asked, "Fernan, did you hit your head during training?" He turned and walked away, thinking bitterly, forget it. She thinks I'm crazy. Suddenly a thought struck him. If I could find solid evidence of a demon's existence, maybe I could convince everyone. After thinking it over, something came to mind. Ah, right. Exactly 1 month from today, during a sparring session for the first-year night class, Ain't Armian would defeat Varen Kalbunder, who held the second rank. After that, no one in the academy would ever be able to match Ain't again. The greater the glory for the victor, the harsher the fall for the loser. The prophecy had included a remark from Ludger. Fernan had believed it, because of Kalbunder's name, his reputation, his honor. But he'd misjudged the man. Even the strong support system behind him eventually fell apart. Varen was possessed by a demon. Losing everything, his hatred for Ain't Armian began to fester, and that crack in his soul was where the demon slipped in. Fernan was convinced. This was the first time a demon had appeared again, even if only indirectly. If he could find a way to use this incident to his advantage, gaining support and convincing others would become much easier. And with that as evidence, he could build a foundation for a larger plan. The problem was he didn't know when, where or how Varen would become possessed. The thought made Fernan even more frustrated. Why didn't that part show up for me? Will it appear when the time comes? Or do I need to fulfill some condition first? So damn annoying. Inside the dormitory, Ain't was reading the news. The front page featured a sensational report an incident had occurred during a joint class between the second-year Knight and Mage divisions. Could it be that Fernan Pellenberg had been hiding his true abilities? And how on earth did Luina Burchef and Fernan Pellenberg end up as a pair? Ain't muttered. Truly worthy of the Pellenberg name. No matter what, Burchef was still Burchef. Even if they'd lost their military power, Gardner remarked, it was thanks to the Burchefs that flashy Pellenberg boy even took action. Ain't smiled. Sounds like you have quite the fondness for House Burchef, while really disliking House Pellenberg. Gardner snapped irritably. Don't you dare compare those two houses. The only knight who could stand shoulder to shoulder with me, and the late emperor on the battlefield, was from the Burchef family. He added gloomily. But nowadays, people are all about House Pellenberg. Times have changed, old man. Gardner replied. That's exactly why it's the age of wanting magic. If it weren't for their war treasury during the Millennium War, I'd have never gotten involved with those nouveau rich nobles in the first place. Then a sudden idea struck him. Ah. That's it, Ain't. Go ask that kid for some money. Your gear looks like it's falling apart. Ain't blinked, confused. What? That's so random. Gardner continued. That Ferdinand kid, hasn't he been treating you unusually well? Ain't corrected him. It's Fernan. Gardner waved it off. Whatever. Pellenberg definitely wants to establish ties with House Armian. They never say outright what they want. They build trust, lull you into letting your guard down, and then slowly reel you in. Ain't hesitated. So you're saying Fernan approached me with some ulterior motive? But my family's fallen from grace. What could he possibly want from me? Gardner shouted, why are you so damn insecure? And besides, it doesn't matter what his intentions are, what matters is that we can take advantage of them. Ain't replied quietly. I just don't think Fernan is being nice to me because he wants something. Gardner froze. What did you just say? Ain't recalled, a note of nostalgia in his voice. When we first met, he was the one who gave me medicine when I was wounded by a monster. The look in his eyes, there was no calculation, no manipulation. He was genuinely concerned for me. Ain't added, asking someone like that for money, there's no honor in it. Trust isn't something you can buy. Gardner trembled with frustration. You really are a difficult kid. Even the late emperor used to say that having a wealthy backer gave peace of mind. Don't tell me you're siding with that boy just because he treated you to one meal. He shouted as he pounced, smacking Ain't repeatedly until Ain't had to block him with the newspaper. Gardner warned. People from House Pellenberg don't do things just out of kindness. Enough arguing. Go see him. I'm telling you, he'll give you money like he's been waiting for you to ask. So Ain't put on his coat and made his way to Fernan's dorm. But he was stopped at the gate. Somewhat embarrassed, he asked, can't I see him now? Hyde explained politely. Young Master Fernan is extremely busy, managing the family's merchant guild while attending school. Without an appointment, it's hard to fit anything into his schedule. Ain't replied, I see. In that case, please just let him know that the one asking to see him isn't a guest, it's Ain't Armian himself. A little while later, Hyde returned with a message. I informed him that someone from House Armian is here, but he said he's busy at the moment and kindly asked that you come another time. Ain't paused, looking confused. I see, I understand. He quickly left. Back with Gardner, he said. You told me he'd give me money like he was just waiting for me to show up. But he's busy, and I disturbed him. Gardner's expression darkened. No, something's off. That reaction, that's not like Fernand Pellenberg at all. Fernand stood on the upper floor, looking down. Interesting, he murmured. I thought the bait this time wasn't tempting enough, but he actually came on his own. Just then, Hyde entered the room. As you instructed, I sent Armian away, he reported. Fernand replied calmly, good work. Hyde, however, seemed puzzled. But you've been watching Armian so closely, why let him go so easily, even after confirming his class? Fernand explained. It was strange how quickly he came to find me. Many people come to House Pellenberg with the same purpose. But he's different. He doesn't seem like someone who would easily ask others for help. That's exactly what makes this even more curious. I get the feeling he didn't come because he wanted to. When I'm certain he's placed his trust in me, that's when it'll be time to lure him in. Hyde still looked confused. Do you really need to go this far for a descendant of a fallen imperial house? Fernand took a sip of tea before replying. Possesses exceptional potential. If I can get him to stand fully on my side, he'll become an invaluable ally. Hyde poured more tea into Fernand's cup. But if you let him walk away like this, aren't you missing your chance? Fernand smiled slightly. Of course not. I'll leave the door open. He ordered, go to the main house's vault and bring back all the spiritual elixirs. Deliver them to Hyde was stunned. What? The ones stored in the Duke's vault. Those are incredibly rare and expensive. Giving something so valuable away without any guarantee, it's too risky. But Fernand remained unfazed. Then I'll just give him something even more valuable. There's nothing in this world that money can't buy. And if you haven't bought it yet, it only means you don't have enough money. Scene change. At the D-Best dormitory, Hyde delivered the item to After Hyde left, Gardner asked, you met the Pellenberg butler? What, he came to apologize for not letting you in? Shook his head. No, he just left this box in a note, then left. Gardner took the letter, scanned it, and snorted. A letter of apology, huh? For someone from House Pellenberg, I guess that counts as having a conscience. Let's see what this Prince of Arrogance wrote. He read aloud with a mocking tone. These spiritual elixirs were prepared especially for you. I hope you'll accept them. Sincerely, your senior Fernand. Gardner exploded. What the hell? Every damn sentence ends with your senior. Is this guy seriously implying he's above the royal family? Meanwhile, murmured softly, it's fine. He opened the box and froze. This is Gardner leaned in. What? What's wrong? What is it? Then he too froze in place. The heart of a holy bird. The holy bird was a sacred beast symbolizing light. Elixirs refined from its heart were the ideal supplement for the light swordsmanship of House Armin. Gardner broke into delighted laughter. That arrogant bastard Fernand. You see? He didn't give us money, but this was worth so much more. You were right to go see him. Was deeply moved. Senior Fernand, I never imagined someone like you would treasure a useless person like me this much. I have to work even harder, so I won't betray your expectations. Gardner, seeing getting all emotional, quickly tried to ground him. Hey, you idiot. Don't get the wrong idea. A few days later, Fernand sat on a chair reading the newspaper. He asked casually, so, how did it end? Hyde replied, Armian defeated Varin Kalbunder. Kalbunder's swordsmanship was slightly superior, but Armian's brute strength was overwhelming. Fernand responded indifferently. Oh, is that so? But inwardly he was puzzled. The prophecy said it would be a narrow victory. Could that brat have used the elixir already? Hyde speculated, could it be the elixir you gave him, sir? Fernand whistled nonchalantly. Might have helped a little. Hyde pressed further, so you're saying Armian could have won even without the elixir? Fernand flipped to the next page of the paper and gave a vague reply. Who could say for sure? Deep down though, he was thinking just as the prophecy said. Defeated Varin. And it won't be long before Varin becomes possessed. This is the perfect opportunity to find concrete proof that demons still exist. He gave Hyde a new order for now, keep tracking Varin Kalbunder. Hyde was surprised, Varin Kalbunder? Not Armian? Fernand confirmed, that's right. Follow where Varin goes. I want to figure out how the demon approaches him. Who he talks to. What they discuss. Hyde looked confused. Kalbunder, not Armian? Fernand muttered to himself. A demon that has vanished for over 1,000 years. How has it returned to this world? I need to know everything. From that point on, detailed reports about Varen's every move were sent in. He got up at night to use the bathroom. He got his hair done at Platina Salon. He changed his sword at a local shop, then ran straight to the bathroom clutching his stomach. He trained at the training grounds, then ran to the bathroom again. Meanwhile, Fernand was sitting in the middle of his midterm exam for Introduction to Spatial Magic. Written in large letters on the board, textbooks allowed. Anti-cheating spells in effect. While the other students were scratching their heads in frustration, Fernand finished quickly and calmly. 2 weeks have passed since I started tracking Varen, but nothing's happened. This is not good. That night, Fernand sat on his bed reading the latest report. There should have been a major event by now. So why is this guy just spending all his time in the bathroom? Is Hyde slacking off? Or was the part of the prophecy about Varen's possession wrong? He picked up a pen and scribbled some notes. Varen, toilet addict, irritable bowel syndrome, stress, cause ain't? He pondered. If the most crucial part of the prophecy, the demon's possession, is incorrect, I may need to reassess how much I can trust this prophecy at all. After losing to ain't, Varen, who'd been seething with resentment, finally faced him again in the midterm exam. He charged at ain't, but the outcome was already determined. A loser once is a loser again. Ain't didn't slip up. On top of that, he had Gardner Alphenfarson, the most talented professor, by his side. Ain't left Varen, who had collapsed in defeat, without looking back, unaware that something dark was already creeping in. Demonic energy began seeping into Varen's body and mind, slowly devouring him from the inside. Suddenly, a spark shot through Fernand's mind. He jolted awake, sitting up abruptly. He looked around and muttered, "What the? It's morning already. Did I fall asleep?" Holding his forehead, he sighed. Now I'm dreaming about prophecies too. He got out of bed, still deep in thought. At least I now know exactly when Varen gets possessed. It's right after he loses to ain't again in the midterms. Fernand mumbled to himself. The practical midterm exam for first-year swordsmanship students. Isn't that today? Damn it. The prophecy clearly mentioned ain't facing him again during the exam. And right from the start, Varen charged at him, but the result was already fated. Ain't didn't win by chance. Not with Gardner Alphenfarson as his mentor. It all makes sense now. Just then, Hyde opened the door and stepped in. "Sir, you're up early. You should have breakfast." Fernand stood by his desk, examining various weapons laid out before him. When he didn't respond, Hyde repeated himself. "Young master, what exactly are you planning this time?" Fernand suddenly said. "Oh Hyde, you're just in time. I'm heading out to observe the first-year knights' midterm exams. I'll need an escort, so come with me." Hyde replied. "I've been summoned back to the Duke's estate. I have to return shortly." Fernand muttered under his breath, "Damn it. Why today of all days?" He grumbled. "Fine, I'll just go with someone else then." Hyde raised an eyebrow. "Someone else? Who? You don't have any friends at the academy, sir. Unless we're suddenly counting your royal attitude as a friendship magnet." Fernand snapped. "I do have someone." He paused, then remembered there was indeed one person he had more or less bought with money. Luina stood with arms crossed in the doorway, looking puzzled. "You need an escort just to get a potion. It's exam season, you know." "Do you really have to go today?" Fernand looked impatient. "If I delay, the potion loses effectiveness. I have to go now." Luina hesitated. "I'm busy studying for finals." He offered, "If you come with me, I'll waive the interest on Berchef's debt for a few months after graduation." She didn't even wait for the second half of the sentence. "Let's go." As they stepped out into the courtyard, Luina asked, "So where are we going?" Fernand replied, "The Northern Mountains." Her voice jumped in alarm. "What?" "That's where the first-year midterms are being held. If upperclassmen are caught trespassing, we could get disciplined for breaking the rules." Fernand nonchalantly said, "There's nothing money can't buy." Luina scowled. "Big words. Don't tell me you bribed someone." Then she answered herself, "Of course it's Professor Grad. Shameless." Fernand smirked. "Professor Grad is flexible. I like that about him." Suddenly Luina said, "I'm heading back to the dorms." Fernand froze. "What? Why?" "We're almost there. I told you no one's going to notice, no one's getting punished." Luina coldly replied. "It's not that. I forgot my sword." She then skipped off, humming a tune. Fernand sighed in relief. "Oh right. Hurry up and grab it then." The two of them soon donned disguises and made their way into the northern mountains. We need to stay hidden so the professors and teaching assistants don't spot us, Fernan whispered. Even if I did bribe Professor Grad, if we loiter around out in the open, Luina cut in, clearly annoyed, it's still a big problem. So you know it's a problem, and you're doing it anyway. Fernan replied, exactly. You're such a good little knight, don't ever change. She was already out of patience with him. Fernan opened a map and muttered, hold on. Let me check where to go. Ain't is ranked second in the knight division, right? He scanned the map. Number 2. Ah, there he is. He's really close to Varen, the one ranked third. Could they have already crossed paths? His eyes narrowed. I need to hurry. Crouching low, Fernan moved behind the bushes and whispered, this way. Hurry. Luina suddenly remembered, wait a minute. That's the professor's map, isn't it? It's against the rules for students to have that. Just how much did you bribe Professor Grad? As she kept ranting, Fernan thought to himself, was it a mistake bringing her along? Can't she just quietly follow my lead? Just then, a strange noise echoed nearby. Luina gasped, was that a monster? Fernan's expression tightened. No, don't tell me, a scream rang out in the distance. Luina sprang up. That's where the first years are. I have to check it out. Fernan shouted, what? Wait, Luina, it's dangerous to go alone. Stop. But she was already gone. Left with no choice, Fernan ran after her. They soon found a group of first-year students. Luina knelt beside one. He's unconscious. Looks like he was attacked by a monster. Thankfully, the defense spell on the exam map protected him, he's not hurt. But her brow furrowed. Still, this is strange. The monsters in this area aren't usually this aggressive. Fernan clenched his jaw. Damn it. It's starting earlier than I expected. I haven't even checked on Varen yet. A series of roars echoed overhead. Luina and Fernan looked up, sensing the pressure in the air grow heavier and more oppressive. Luina's voice trembled. Fernan. What the hell is going on? Before he could answer, a thunderous explosion erupted right in front of them. Luina gasped. Where are we? She suddenly sensed something behind them, heavy footsteps pounding rapidly toward the two. A massive pig-headed monster wielding a giant wooden club was charging at them. Without hesitation, Luina drew her sword and lunged forward, delivering a clean slash that severed the creature's arm. Blood sprayed violently as the severed limb hit the ground. Yet the monster didn't stop. Luina was stunned. Why isn't it slowing down? Its arm's been cut off. The beast's blood-red eyes locked onto her as it roared and lunged again. At that moment, the ground trembled. Jagged rocks suddenly burst from below and impaled the monster's body. Fernan was chanting, unleashing his magic as the stones beneath them continued to gather into sharp, spiraling drills. His staff glowed brilliantly as he launched the rock drills straight into the pig-headed monster. Thud, thud, thud. A rapid succession of impacts drove into the beast's back. Luina leapt to the side to avoid the attacks. She kicked off a large tree, using it as a springboard to reposition herself. The monster, relentless, chased after her. She vaulted high into the air just as the creature crashed headlong into the trunk, toppling the massive tree. Landing beside Fernan, Luina asked breathlessly, what the hell was that thing? Fernan replied, that's a berserk. It doesn't feel pain anymore. He added grimly, berserks are on a completely different level from normal monsters. They exist solely to kill any living thing they see. The only way to stop them is to cut off their heads. Luina frowned. But why did it go crazy all of a sudden? Fernan remembered the prophecy, the one that spoke of monsters going berserk across the continent because of a demon. While the professors and assistants were busy responding to a sudden outbreak, Varen had used the demonic power he'd obtained to launch an assault on Ain't. Pushed to his limits, Ain't had awakened. Just like in the plays, whenever the protagonist reached a crisis, chaos would erupt from all sides. And now, things were unfolding exactly the same way. Thinking of this, Fernan couldn't help but smile. Seeing the expression on his face, Luina snapped, I asked why the monster went insane. What the hell are you smiling at? You think this is funny? Raising his staff again, Fernan began preparing a spell and calmly said, Luina. Right now let's deal with that stubborn bastard first. She thought to herself, he definitely knows something. Meanwhile, in another location, a floating map slowly dissolved in mid-air. Varen knelt on the ground, breathing heavily. Again, it's you again, Ain't Armian. Ain't stood in front of him, his grip firm on the hilt of his sword. Without a word he turned to leave. But Varen called out, "You think this is over?" "It's not." Ain't answered firmly, "It is over. The match is decided. You lost, Varen. You've been defeated." Those words hit Varen like a hammer to the chest. "I have to win. I have to win." He remembered Ludger's face as he said, "Sorry if my expectations were a bit too high." "No, don't apologize." Varen was devastated. "I've let down the prince's expectations, I have to win. I must." He envisioned the scornful expression of the Kalbunder family head, pathetic. "Your younger brother surpasses you in every way." Varen gritted his teeth. "I've disappointed my entire family. If I lose here, I might lose my right to be heir." One thought filled his mind, "I must win. I must win." His fists clenched tightly, veins bulging and trembling. He roared, charging forward with every ounce of strength he had left. "Stop right there, Ain't Armian." Ain't turned and met him with a calm, confident gaze. Varen's killing intent had faded into nothingness. With a swift and merciless flurry of sword strikes, Ain't unleashed a flurry of slashes that cut through the air like streaks of lightning. Varen collapsed, unmoving. Gardner barked angrily. "Why is it that every time he sees you, that idiot charges in like he wants to die? He's weak and beaten, yet refuses to accept it. What a disgrace to knighthood, just kill him already." Ain't replied coldly, "I can't." Gardner growled, "If you let him live, he'll only drag a knight's honor through the mud." Ain't calmly responded, "This wasn't a real battle. It's just an exam. Try saying something that actually makes sense. If I leave him here, an assistant will be along soon to take him away." Back in the battle against the berserk monster, Fernan and Luina managed to take it down without much trouble. He didn't find it particularly strong. Luina stood silently for a moment before suggesting, "Fernan, I think we should abandon the whole spirit herb mission. Let's leave this to the professors and their assistants, and get out of here." But Fernan replied coolly, "No. I can't give up. I'm going to push through the monster horde and head west." Luina's eyes widened. "Are you out of your mind?" she shouted. As Fernan adjusted his cloak, he replied without missing a beat, "Out of my mind? You just helped take down a berserk monster yourself, didn't you? You should realize by now they're tough, sure, but not invincible." Luina narrowed her eyes and asked sharply, "Did you predict this would happen? Is that why you said you needed an escort?" Fernan flinched slightly but quickly put on a stern front. "Of course not. How could I possibly have known?" Still clearly uneasy, Luina muttered, "It doesn't matter. Something about this whole situation feels wrong. Is that spirit herb really more important than your life?" What she didn't expect was Fernand's immediate and unwavering reply, "Of course it is. The spirit herb is more important than a life." And with that, he darted off at full speed. "Fernan! Hey, you lunatic!" Luina yelled after him, furious. But despite her anger, she couldn't bring herself to let him go alone. She quickly chased after him. Eventually, the two reached a sparse area of the forest. Luina looked around and asked, "Is this the place where the spirit herb's supposed to be?" Fernan nodded. "Yeah." He scanned the area with a frown. "Damn it, looks like the fight with Ain't is already over. I got here too late." Just then, Luina noticed someone lying motionless on the ground. "Fernan, someone's passed out over there," she called out. "Wait, Luina, don't go near him," Fernan warned urgently. But she didn't listen. She stepped forward and turned the young man over. The moment she saw his face, Luina's expression shifted to surprise. "Huh, Varen Kalbunder. I remember him being pretty capable. Who the hell did this to him?" She checked his pulse. "Looks like he lost consciousness during battle. We should help him up. Come here and give me a hand." But Fernan shook his head. "I said no. Stay away from him." Luina stared at him in disbelief. "Stay away? What, you want to just leave him lying here? What if a berserk monster shows up? We should at least drag him somewhere safe." At that very moment, Varen slowly began to rise. Luina instinctively stepped back a few paces, sensing something terribly wrong. Her expression turned pale. What is this aura?" Varen's eyes were hollow, lifeless. A strange, eerie energy pulsed from his pupils, something dark and unnatural. "I've never felt anything like this before," Luina whispered, horrified. "Varen Kalbunder, no. Is that really even Kalbunder anymore?" Fernan answered grimly, "That's demonic energy." Luina gasped, What? You mean the kind of dark energy that demons give off? That's right, Fernand said. Varen Kalbunder, that bastard has been possessed by a demon. Both of them stood frozen, staring at Varen. He was no longer human. A low rumble echoed through the trees. Something didn't feel right. Fernand narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself, something's off. According to the prophecy, Varen, once possessed, was supposed to launch an attack on Ain't the moment he woke up. But something had clearly changed. His target had shifted. Suddenly Luina turned to him, alarmed. Are you saying a demon took over Kalbunder's body and returned to this world? How do you even know that? Fernand didn't respond. His face was etched with worry as he stared at the possessed Varen. Just look into his eyes, he said finally, voice low. He's completely lost his mind. We need to restrain him now, Luina urged, her tone sharp with urgency. Fernand placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Luina, give me 10 minutes. What are you planning? She asked, spinning around, but Fernand was gone. Right then Varen lunged at her. You maniac. Luina shouted, hastily blocking the attack. Kalbunder. It's me, Burchef. But Varen no longer recognized friend from foe. Consumed by rage and demonic energy, his blows landed heavier and faster than before. Luina gritted her teeth as she defended herself. He's too strong. If this keeps up, I'll be overwhelmed. Summoning a surge of mana, she launched him back with brute force. Varen crashed to the ground, but she didn't let up. Charging forward, she struck again. Varen Kalbunder. Snap out of it. Though writhing in pain, he was still under the demon's control. He growled and sprang to his feet, swinging his blade in retaliation. Luina leapt into the air to avoid the blow. Varen seized the opening to begin healing himself. Luina clenched her fists, drawing deeply on her reserves. Her spiritual energy surged, but so did Varen's dark aura. The black mist pouring from his body grew denser, more suffocating. He launched himself at her again. And they clashed violently, their auras slamming together with such force that the forest shook around them. But Luina was faltering. She took a step back, panting. I'm running out of energy. The more I fight, the more that dark energy drains me. She bit her lip. At this rate, I won't last much longer, but there has to be a way out. As she desperately searched for an opening, her gaze snapped to the side. Fernand? Across the battlefield he called out, this way, Luina. Varen turned his head in confusion just in time for Luina to vault off his head and dash toward Fernand. He grabbed her arm. Come on, this way. What the hell are you doing? She yelled. Now you show up. Why are we running? Why? Fernand answered calmly. Because that thing is a demon. Even as Varen chased them, Luina couldn't believe her ears. So you're just running to save yourself? And you still call yourself human? I'm not running away, Fernand snapped. I was setting a trap. You think someone like Kalbunder can just be taken down by brute force? And as if on cue, Varen stepped right into the snare Fernand had laid. A deafening roar rang out. The ground erupted as Varen was sucked into a glowing magical array in the sky. Blazing golden light slammed into him and pinned him flat to the ground. That was too much. Luina cried. What if he dies in there? He won't, Fernand said grimly. Look, sure enough, Varen roared and surged back to his feet, his power now even more terrifying. Luina suddenly said, Fernand. After fighting him, I realized, but Fernand interrupted her. Serious. I didn't want to use this. But we're out of options. From his cloak he pulled a crimson stone. As he muttered the incantation, a red flame erupted and swirled violently around Varen. The magic circle underfoot lit up again, brighter, fiercer. The ground trembled with each surge of power. Then, without warning, a colossal burst of fire exploded directly into Varen. Boom. Boom, boom. The earth shook with the impact. The flames consumed the black aura around Varen, burning it away. When the smoke cleared, he lay motionless, sprawled across the scorched earth. Fernand wiped the sweat from his forehead and let out a relieved sigh. It worked. The plan actually worked. That was way too close. Luina, still catching her breath, looked puzzled. The plan worked. Wait a minute. All that stuff you just used, those were insanely expensive artifacts, weren't they? Don't you think that was a little wasteful? Fernand replied. It was wasteful, yeah, but we didn't exactly have a choice, did we? Luina muttered under her breath. If we had coordinated properly, we could have taken him down without burning through those luxury items. Fernand gave her a serious look. What are you even saying? The guy's possessed by a demon. Didn't you see his scorched skin, the glowing red eyes? And that terrifying aura of demonic energy? Luina wasn't convinced. Yeah, on the outside he definitely looked like some apocalyptic monster, but deep down, he's still Varen Kalbunder. Fernand froze for a moment. Deep down, he's still Varen Kalbunder. That idea hit him like a bolt of lightning. He thought back. Ain't Armian went through hell just to awaken. Even though Ain't was hailed as the hero of salvation, at this point he was still just a first-year student. He hadn't even fully unlocked his powers. And when you really look at their current abilities, Luina, a second year like you, is obviously stronger than Ain't right now. A wave of frustration swept over Fernand. Did I really make such a stupid mistake? Luina folded her arms. I told you earlier we didn't need to overcomplicate things, but you didn't listen. Inwardly, Fernand cursed himself. I got so caught up in the idea of demon that I forgot the most important thing, damn it. That sacred relic, that scroll, they cost a fortune just to trap him. Luina, noticing his distant look, gently tapped his cheek. Your eyes have gone blank, Fernand. You alright? She held up one finger. How many fingers am I holding? But Fernand couldn't focus on anything. All that echoed in his mind was one thing. How much did all that stuff cost? How much? Suddenly Varen stirred. He groaned as he sat up, clutching his head. His eyes rolled back, vacant and eerie. He lunged at them again. With pure reflex, Fernand reeled back and launched a fierce punch, nailing Varen square in the face. Dio, you know how much that cost. Varen collapsed with a thud, knocked out cold once more. Still fuming, Fernand growled, what kind of demon is this, so damn exhausting? Luina quickly stepped in and grabbed his arm. Fernand. That's enough. Varen stared intently at the recording orb in front of him, his voice filled with disbelief. That's me. No way. Fernand replied calmly, the recording orb captures everything exactly as it happened. It can't be faked. Panic crept into Varen's voice. I don't remember anything after the match with Ain't Armian. That's exactly why I, out of kindness, am explaining it to you, Fernand said, raising his voice. After you lost to Ain't, you were possessed by a demon and attacked us. Varen snapped, I've never even seen a demon. Why are you all so sure I was possessed? Fernand's tone suddenly dropped. Varen. You've seen the recording now, so I'm sure you understand. You took a bomb blast head on. Your body was pierced by dozens of magic arrows. And then you were engulfed in a pillar of hellfire. Yet here you are alive. That's because demonic energy was protecting your body. Varen was stunned. Now that I think about it. Yeah, I really should have been dead. Fernand let out a dramatic sigh. And I wasted a ridiculous amount of resources trying to stop your demon-possessed self. Varen hesitated, then said, if you're talking about the magical items you used to kill, no. I mean, restrain me, then I'll pay for them. Fernand pressed his hand to his forehead and sighed even more theatrically. Let's not forget the emotional trauma. I had to fight someone who could have killed me with a single blow. Varen's expression turned serious. Cut to the point. What do you want from me? Without missing a beat, Fernand pulled out a sheet of paper. Simple. Just sign this contract. Varen Kalbunder will now become a servant of House Pellenberg. Sign here and all will be forgiven. Varen took the contract and examined it. This is a slave contract. These terms are absurd no matter how you read them. Fernand waved his hands dramatically. You really don't appreciate how generous I'm being, trying to settle this nicely for your sake. Luina watched Fernand's expression carefully. She got the sense he was afraid of something. Then Fernand placed a hand on the recording orb, his tone now slightly threatening. In that case, I have no choice but to follow protocol. I'll hand this orb over to the Purge Division. Varen flinched. The Purge Division. The Purge Division was a royal unit created to hunt down and exterminate demons. In the past, under the justification of rooting out evil, they held near absolute power. But now, 1,000 years later, with demons thought to be extinct, they were little more than a relic of the past. Fernand explained. They've been waiting for a chance to step back into the spotlight. If they see this recording, it'll be like striking gold. Varen shouted, I told you I have nothing to do with demons. Fernand pressed on. You consorted with demonic forces. That means you'll be expelled from the academy. Do you really think the Marquess of Kalbunder would accept a son who sold his soul to a demon? You might even be disowned. That struck Varen right in the heart. With no other choice, he signed the contract. Then, standing in front of Fernand, he bowed deeply and said, From now on I am in your care, Master, I mean Senior. Luina let out a sigh. So this is how things turned out, huh? Fernand cleared his throat with a few coughs. All right then. The three of them headed back to the northern forest. Luina asked, are you sure we can handle this on our own? Shouldn't we inform the professors? Fernand shook his head. Not yet. Whether Varen was possessed willingly or was manipulated, whatever the case, we still don't know the full picture. And if someone really did manipulate him, that means there's someone within the academy collaborating with demons. If this gets out, they'll vanish before we can catch them. And it'll be even harder to find out who's behind it all. Luina considered his words and nodded. That makes sense. So you're going to investigate quietly? She paused before asking. But why target academy students in the first place? Fernand replied, just a theory, but the academy gathers the brightest talents in the empire. If someone attacks its students, Luina gasped. That's like destroying the empire's future. I can't just stand by and watch. If you need help hunting demons, call me anytime. Seeing her impassioned resolve, Fernand smirked inwardly. Perfect. Now I won't have to lend her money with interest anymore. Though she hasn't realized it yet. Maybe one day she will when she finally sees how ridiculously stupid that promise was. Afterward, despite the professors and teaching assistants being mobilized to suppress the monster rampage, the midterm exam for the first-year night department was still abruptly cancelled midway. However, the academy couldn't afford to cancel the entire midterm exam. An emergency announcement was issued. For safety reasons, all practical midterm exams would be replaced by written tests. When students saw the announcement, they were left dumbfounded. Every practical exam this semester had now become a written one. Whispers spread like wildfire. No way, are you serious? A written midterm? We're doomed. That was because the academy's grading system had always placed more weight on practical skills than theory. For students who focused heavily on combat training, having to sit for written tests in every subject was a huge burden. Ain't was no exception. As he was quietly cramming theory, Gardner suddenly spoke up. Still, no matter how I look at it, something feels off. What feels off? Ain asked. That monster outbreak, Gardner replied. It was clearly related to demonic energy. I sensed scorching hot mana spreading everywhere. And yet, the real demon never showed up. Doesn't that mean it wasn't caused by a demon at all? Ain't reasoned. Gardner brushed it off. Impossible. How many times do I have to say this before you believe me? A demon will definitely show up again. That's precisely why the first emperor stationed me here. As he spoke, Gardner slapped both of Ain's cheeks and reminded him sternly, and demons always target you. Startled, Ain yelped, why? Gardner looked surprised. You really don't know. For demons, the name Armian is an enemy etched into their bones. If not for the Armian bloodline, this world might have already fallen into their hands. So this time they'll surely aim to wipe out every trace of that bloodline first. That's why you must never let your guard down. Follow my instructions exactly, got it? A shiver ran through Aint. In his heart, a disturbing thought echoed. Am I the spark that draws the demons in? At the same time, over in Ravido's hall, Fernand was clutching his head, groaning loudly, my head's spinning. Seeing him collapsed over the table, Hyde panicked. Young master, are you all right? Inside Fernand's mind, strange words began to surface. Mandatory first-year core course field survival skills. After completing the midterms, students will be sent to the Southern Forest for a 1-week practical training session. The Southern Forest, perfect. He recalled that within the lake deep inside that forest, there was a sacred herb. A place with no detectable mana. The plan was to lure him into soaking his feet in that tranquil lake, and the moment he did, the lake would strip away every protective layer around him. Meanwhile, Aint stepped into a cavern. This is the place, he murmured. If I hadn't come with genuine intent, I never would have found it. His steps were already light, but now he moved with even more caution. When he sensed a hint of deathly aura ahead, he muttered, I found it. His gaze lowered. A massive creature slowly emerged from the stone wall. It was supported by 4 sturdy legs, and the heart it had just pierced and devoured was covered in gleaming aquamarine scales like precious gems. It wasn't the stench of blood, but a strange green fluid oozing from its wound. The beast's body rose and fell. It was breathing. No, it was alive. As Aint approached, the creature's cold breath washed over his face. The closer he got, the more intense the chill became. Gardner's voice cried out in his head, it's a holy beast. A thief pretending to be its master? This is beyond you, run. Aint swallowed hard. He wanted to turn and flee, but the monster before him wasn't going to give him even the slightest chance. As his eyes sharpened with resolve, the creature lunged at him. Ain't sidestepped and slashed his sword across its body, but it dodged effortlessly. It charged again. Ain't continued to evade and counterattack, and through a narrow crack in the rocky wall, a vein of mithril ore revealed itself. Gardner was overjoyed. Heavens, a mithril vein. Ain't, you must mine every last piece of it. Don't leave behind even a single lump. Mithril was known as the metal blessed by Manhwa. But that wasn't all. This sword was forged from a mithril alloy, Gardner added. That's why my soul could reside within it. Fernand suddenly sat up straight and exclaimed, "What? A metal that can hold a soul?" A thought sparked in his mind, this is mine. He immediately went to find Luina. The girl looked surprised. Last time you said it was a medicinal herb. Now it's a spiritual herb? Fernand admitted, I lied last time, but this time it's for real. You say that like it's no big deal, Luina scolded. The first year outdoor combat training lasts an entire week, doesn't it? That means you'll be skipping a full week of classes. Fernand tried to convince her, I've already prepared a plan to make up for the classes I'll miss. As long as you agree to do it, I'll take care of everything else. But Luina flatly refused. I'm not doing it. Fernand sweetened the deal. I'll wipe out all the interest owed by House Berchef. She brushed him off. Still not doing it. Luina said sternly, I may not know about other things, but skipping school just for a single spiritual herb, that's something I absolutely won't accept. I can't believe you're seriously considering ditching an entire week of class just for that. Fernand finally gave up. Fine, I won't push anymore. I'll go find someone else. Just then the door opened, and a young man walked in cheerfully. Long time no see, Fernand. May Mana bless you again today. Shortly afterward, the results of the midterm exams were announced. Midterm rankings. First semester, first year night department ain't ranked 16th. Gardner grumbled with mild dissatisfaction. 16th place. And that spoiled rich kid actually snagged first. Seriously. Luina looked at the newcomer with a curious expression. And you are? She asked. Jace Vines, he replied with a cheerful smile. Didn't expect you to come alone, Fernand. Hello, Lady Luina Berchef, may the blessings of Mana be upon you. Luina straightened up, as if something had just clicked in her memory. Ah, right, Jace turned to Fernand. By the way, how have you been lately? I've been doing fine. What about you? How's life at the academy? Fernand replied. Jace chattered brightly, still a first year, so there's a lot I need to learn. Luina, intrigued, asked, Haim, you two seem pretty close. Fernand glanced at her. You look genuinely surprised. Jace nodded in agreement. That's understandable, I guess. But really it's only natural. Luina raised an eyebrow. There's nothing natural about it. Jace Vines, you're the saint of the Dragon God Church, aren't you? The one people sing endless praises about. And yet here you are, associating with a greedy devil like him. Fernand's expression read. Are you insulting me right now? Jace laughed heartily. Haha, you probably wouldn't know this, Lady Luina, since you're not a mage. The Dragon God Church originally worshipped the ancient dragon who granted magic to humanity. But over time we shifted our faith toward mana and magic itself. These days most of our followers are mages, and the church has essentially become a powerful magical organization. To be recognized as a grand mage, one must be acknowledged by our pope, that's how much authority the church holds. Luina held up her hand to stop him. Okay, I know all that. But what does that have to do with you two being so chummy? Jace continued eagerly, let me finish, okay? Since the church is run by mages, it requires a massive financial base to function. That's where Pellenberg comes in, they're our biggest supporter. The countless magical tools crafted by the church, all distributed through the Pellenberg Trade Association. Honestly, all hail Pellenberg. The bond between the Dragon God Church and House Pellenberg is like roots clinging to soil. He grinned and added. As the saying goes, wealth makes you an elder. Fernand gave him a serious look. For the record, I am older than you. Of course, of course. Jace quickly replied, nodding enthusiastically. Watching the way he acted, Luina began to harbor some doubts. Is this guy really a saint? He even mispronounced the word saint a little. Jace put on a pouty face. Ouch, that hurts, you know. Even I have feelings. Luina quickly apologized. Oh no, I'm sorry, saint. That was rude of me. But Jace suddenly flipped his demeanor back to playful. Kidding. Haha. Luina let out a small cough. Anyway, I think I understand your relationship now. So, I'll take my leave. Jace whined, leaving already? Are you really going? We just met. She replied plainly, yes. I have no intention of getting involved in this mess. He waved goodbye and said cheerfully, if you change your mind, just come back anytime. Farewell, Lady Luina. May the manna always bless you. As the door closed, Jace turned back inside and grinned at Fernan. So why did you call me here? Fernan didn't like that smug smile one bit. But he still answered. During the first year survival training, we'll be collecting spirit herbs. I need backup. Jace perked up. Spirit herbs, huh? Sounds exciting. Fernan scowled. Don't tell me you're planning to grab them all for yourself. Jace quickly waved his hands. No way, of course not. I'm not dumb enough to ruin my relationship with Pellenberg over a few herbs. But do we really have to collect them during the training? With your skill level, sneaking in and taking them beforehand should be a piece of cake. Fernan frowned. If I could, I would've. But the truth is, I haven't pinpointed the exact location yet. He had thought it through. In theory, the prophecy provided enough clues to find the place somewhere near a lake in the southern forest. There were 7 lakes in that forest, which was also the designated training ground for first-year students. A cave beneath one of those lakes, hidden underwater. I've spent the past few days pouring mana into the bottom of all 7 lakes to try and detect a mana vein. But I haven't found a trace of mithril. Clearly the cave is concealed with magic. Normal means won't uncover it. As much of a hassle as it is, I think we'll have to tail Ain't to find the exact spot. Jace looked puzzled. But students who aren't participating in the training aren't allowed into that area, right? It'll be crowded. Sneaking in won't be easy. Fernan smirked. That's why I signed up as a teaching assistant for the first year's training. Jace was taken aback. Wait, second years are allowed to do that? I thought the requirements were pretty strict. Not many second years bother with it, Fernan admitted. But I came up with a pretty convincing excuse. Even Professor Rosalia had been skeptical. Now you care about grades. Are you sick or something? She'd said. But Fernan had stayed firm. I'm not lying, he assured her, and had managed to win her over. Pleased with himself, he added. It doesn't break any rules. I've already gotten approval. Jace nodded in admiration. You really are a merchant at heart. Not a single flaw in your plan. Fernan asked again, so you in? Jace gave him a playful wink and an okay sign. As long as you promise me a big cut, I'm all in. He even pulled out a slip of paper. If you can draft up a clear contract with compensation terms, even better. 8 tails and half a gin, Fernan muttered with a smirk. This kid's detail-oriented, I'll give him that. The day of the first year's survival training arrived. Students were taken to the designated area. Gardner turned to Ain't and said, all right, let's go over the plan one more time. The herb we're targeting is at Lake Farden to the west. We need to make it look like we stumbled upon it by coincidence. We'll start by wandering around aimlessly. Noticing Ain't staring off into the distance, Gardner asked, hey, are you even listening? Ain't had spotted Fernan among the crowd and exclaimed, look. That's Senior Fernan. Looks like he's a teaching assistant too. Gardner scoffed. That spoiled rich boy. As a TA. Yeah, right. No way he's doing it for free. Ain't guessed, maybe he's doing it for the extra credit points. He raised his hand to wave. Senior. Just then, Professor Grad shouted, training begins in 30 minutes. All teaching assistants, return to your assigned stations. Ain't sighed. Oh, I didn't even get to say hi to Senior Fernan, Gardner grumbled. What do you even like about that fancy pants rich kid? Meanwhile, in a secluded spot, a mannequin lay on the ground. Jace's voice came hurriedly. All right, I'm all dressed. Now give me a little blood and mana. Fernan bit his finger. As Jace cast his spell, just a few drops of blood touched the mannequin and instantly, it transformed into a perfect copy of Fernan. Jace asked, well? Looks pretty spot on, right? When the dummy sat up on its own, he got excited. Oh ho, not bad. You think it'll fool them? He beamed with confidence. Hey, I used to be top of the class. I've used this spell countless times to sneak out without getting caught by the Pope. Fernan was stunned. You fooled the Pope with this? Jace shrugged. Of course not. The Pope's a legendary archmage. No way I could completely trick him. But it still took him a few hours to notice something was off. Even then, he wasn't entirely sure. Fernan stood up. That'll be enough then. Inwardly, he thought. He even confused the world's top mage. No wonder people call him a genius. He'll be a powerful asset for Ain't in the future. Pulling up his hood, he mused to himself. But it's strange, the prophecy never mentioned Jace. Why? He's clearly gifted, and he's part of the Dragon God's church too. Meanwhile, Jace patted the mannequin affectionately. Take care out there, buddy. It's no surprise that the world despises demons. But the Church of the Dragon God takes that hatred to another level. A demon once mocked him, saying magic came from dragons? Ridiculous. Magic is demonic power, born from the devils themselves. That blasphemous statement, spat out by some damn demon, sent the church into a frenzy. From that moment on, anything even remotely related to demons would trigger their wrath. They morphed into a fanatical order, dedicated to hunting down and exterminating demons. Fernand glanced at Jace, wondering quietly to himself, could this guy end up becoming one of Ain's allies someday? Should I start investing in him now, just in case? Future ally stock, Ain't Inc. Just then, Jace reminded him, oh right, by the way, don't forget to come back within 5 hours, okay? Fernand smiled and replied, got it. I'm counting on you. Jace waved him off cheerfully, take care man. Without wasting another second, Fernand began tailing Ain't. He perched on a thick tree branch, quietly observing as Ain't headed west. The only lake on that side was Lake Farden. Fernand activated the communication system. It's your turn now. Just follow the plan exactly as I told you. Varen wore a crimson earring that matched his hair, an enchanted communicator Fernand had given him for receiving instructions. Varen stepped forward to block Ain't's path. Ain't blinked in surprise. Varen Kalbunder. A drop of sweat rolled down Varen's temple. Having lost to Ain't once before, the confrontation stirred an uneasy tension in him. Ain't asked softly, what's this, Varen? Don't tell me you want to try again. You already know you can't win, don't you? Of course I know, you bastard, Varen thought to himself. But I don't want to keep looking so damn pathetic either. Not long ago, Fernand had summoned him for a mission. You want me to tail Ain't Armian through this entire field training session? Varen had exclaimed in disbelief. Why the hell should I do that? Seeing that Varen not only refused but also dared to question him, Fernand narrowed his eyes and threatened, looks like you still don't get the situation. Want me to flip your life into hell mode? Varen immediately clutched his head and screamed, no senior. Please. Now, standing face to face with Ain't, Varen looked him straight in the eye. I can't accept defeat. Ain't raised an eyebrow. Even twice wasn't enough for you. Varen tightened his grip on his sword, his voice unwavering. Whether it's twice or 100 times, it's the same. Losing to you crushed my honor. I need to fight you again to reclaim it. With that, he gathered his energy. Magic flared wildly around him as he raised his sword into a combat stance. Watching from a distance, Gardner's eyes lit up with excitement. Wow. That unyielding spirit, even after being defeated. At first I didn't think much of him, but now I see it, he's a true knight. Ain't, you have to accept his challenge. Ain't stood in thought for a moment, then gave a slight smile. Varen, I respect that. But this training session forbids duels between participants. Varen yelled, I don't care. I fight for honor. Gardner chimed in enthusiastically, come on, Ain't, forget the rules. A knight lives for honor. On one side, Varen was burning with the fire of revenge. Fight me, damn it. On the other, Gardner kept egging him on. Are you seriously going to trample on a knight's courage? Ain't stood there, silent, feeling a growing headache. Watching the scene unfold, Fernand chuckled to himself. Man, Varen may be a pain, but he's doing a decent job stalling. Keep buying time, buddy. As for me, I've got my own thing to take care of. He dropped down from his perch and headed toward the lake. He scanned the area carefully, no one in sight. The barrier was already in place. Even if I dig up half the forest looking for Mithril, no one will hear a thing. Cracking his knuckles, he grinned with anticipation. Alright then, time to give this a shot. I've been dying to try this magic out. Fernand knelt and pressed his palm against the ground, searching for the right spot. I have to find the Mithril before Ain't shows up. There's no time to waste, that's why I brought something special. He extended his hand toward the lake and began chanting. Come forth, my servant. A strange object began to rise slowly from beneath the water's surface. It was powered by complex magical engineering. A fusion of countless spell systems dripping with the essence of a merchant's heart, and a staggering pile of money. The massive construct emerged fully, a towering humanoid figure with glowing eyes. Fernand shouted with pure joy, a golem. Hell yes, this is awesome. He grinned even wider. From now on your name is James. Let's go James. Time to find that mithril. He could barely contain his excitement, laughing like a madman. This was Fernand Pellenberg's very first self-made golem James. And digging. That was exactly what James was made for. Not far away, Varen was still doing his best to stall for time. He shouted, "You're not getting through unless you beat me first." Inside he cursed, "That heartless bastard, I've gone this far, and you're seriously just gonna stand there and watch?" Ain't held his head in frustration. God, this is such a pain. How long has it been already? Gardner, standing nearby, was visibly irritated. How could a descendant of Armian act so ridiculously? Running out of ideas, Varen suddenly threw himself to the ground and wrapped his arms tightly around Aint's leg. Move. Aint shouted, trying to shake him off. That's enough, Varen. Stop acting like a child. Varen snapped back. You think I want to do this? Fernand gave me one job, stall you for at least 1 full hour. If I can't endure it, I'm screwed. Aint's eyes widened. Wait, what did you just say? Varen yelled at the top of his lungs. I like doing this. Okay. I love being trampled on, having my life ruined. It turns me on. So go ahead and attack me, you bastard. Aint froze, completely thrown off. What the hell, what kind of freak is this? He kicked Varen hard, sending him flying backward. Varen screamed, hey, and crashed onto the ground flat on his back with a loud thud. Groaning, he sat up and kept yelling like a lunatic. That's right. I'm a total freak. So just attack me already. But in front of him, there was nothing, just a few leaves floating gently down through the air. Aint was gone. Varen pulled out his pocket watch and checked it. How long have I held out? He muttered. Fernand said to keep him busy for 1 hour. It's been 1 hour and 10 minutes now. I'm saved. With a triumphant laugh, he proclaimed, Varen Kalberter has completed the mission. Not long after, Aint finally reached the cave. Gardner asked, Aint Armian, are you really able to ignore a knight's plea for a duel like that? Is that what you've learned? Aint calmly replied, no. But the rules clearly state, no fighting during training. He glanced around the area and added, also this cave? If you're not actively searching for it, you'd never find it. Gardner laughed heartily. Naturally. If it were that easy, it would have been looted ages ago. Wading into the water, Aint scanned his surroundings with sharp eyes. Something's off here. I can sense a presence that doesn't belong to a spirit herb. Just then, Gardner called out. Hey, look down here. Right before them was a glowing spirit herb, shimmering with light. Aint gasped, whoa, jackpot. Meanwhile, deep within the submerged cave, Fernand had been digging feverishly. After a while he burst into uncontrollable laughter, and began dancing wildly to an imaginary beat. Bomb. Found it, mithril. Back with Aint, the situation had suddenly taken a turn. He frowned. This just got complicated. We found the herb, but how do we extract it? He gestured toward the glowing plant, which was guarded by a massive creature. Gardner examined the area and muttered, didn't expect there to be a sea dragon watching over this place. This isn't the right time. We'll come back later. Aint hesitated. Lately I've been in top form. What if I fought the sea dragon now? Gardner sighed deeply. Then that dragon's gonna learn what human meat tastes like. Aint blinked, then fell silent. Gardner shook his head. No. You're not ready for that thing. Suddenly the ground began to shake violently beneath their feet. Huge chunks of rock tumbled down from above, crashing hard. One of them struck the slumbering sea dragon. Its eyes snapped open. With an ear-splitting roar, the beast reared up in fury. Gardner panicked. Shit. It's awake. Aint looked up. The sea dragon was now looming above them, its blood-red gaze locked onto him. Shivering, he stammered, What do we do now? Aint suddenly muttered, might as well just finish it off now. The moment he drew his sword and dropped into a defensive stance, Gardner snapped, what the hell are you doing drawing your sword? I told you to stop. You're nowhere near ready to take that thing on. Run. The sea dragon had already taken notice of the unfamiliar intruder. With a deep, menacing growl, it lunged forward. Gardner urged frantically, run. Don't look back, just run. Aint stood frozen for a beat. Run. I think it's a little too late for that now, he muttered, then leapt high into the air to evade the attack. The beast crashed hard into the cliffside with a thunderous boom. Seizing the opportunity, Aint locked eyes on the perfect strike zone, and brought his sword down in a fierce slash against the dragon's head. In response, the beast whipped its massive tail, smashing into Ain't and flinging him violently to the side. He landed in the shallow water, so he was able to regain his balance without much trouble. But as soon as he got back on his feet, the sea dragon was already barreling toward him with its jaws wide open. It sucked in a deep breath, then unleashed a spiraling torrent of pressurized water. Ain't steadied himself, gathered his energy, and channeled all his power into his sword to block the incoming blast. The clash of forces was immense. Raw power crackled through the air, sending shockwaves through the surroundings. But Ain't held his ground. The dragon lunged in for close combat, whipping its tail again and again. Ain't struggled to keep up, barely managing to deflect the furious strikes. Not far away, Fernan was collecting mithril when he felt the ground rumble violently beneath his feet. The sound of chaos grew louder and more intense. He muttered, "What the hell is with all this noise? Did the sea dragon wake up already? I fed it a whole load of meat soaked in sedatives. It's already awake." He shook his head. "Guess that's what you get with a legendary beast." He sighed, a bit worried. Hopefully Ain't didn't run into that dragon. I've still got to deal with the whole Varen being possessed by a demon situation. If Ain't loses his chance to awaken like the prophecy foretold, that'll be a pain. But wait, I already gave him the heart of the holy bird. He should be fine. Fernan turned to leave. "James, we've mined it all right, let's head out." A large goblin followed behind, lugging a sack stuffed with loot. Meanwhile, back on the other side, Ain't had finally finished his battle with the sea dragon. He crawled along a rocky ledge, gasping for air, completely drained as he finally made it to a small opening in the cliff. He panted heavily. "Damn, that was way too close." Gardner barked. "This is exactly why I told you to run. I wanted to run." Ain't shot back, exhausted. "But that damn thing came charging at me like it wanted to kill me." Gardner looked annoyed. "If the ground hadn't held together during that hit, you'd be dragon food right now, you reckless idiot." Ain't exhaled. "Still, I made it out all right. Didn't I?" Gardner gave a half nod. "Yeah, I guess the heart of the holy bird the kid gave you really did strengthen your aura." They both turned to glance across the cavern. "Look," Gardner said. "The sacred herb is still intact." "That's a relief." Ain't sighed as he looked up. "It's way too high. Climbing out of here is gonna take forever." Suddenly, Gardner's expression changed. He sensed something strange from the far side of the cave. "Ain't," he said sharply. "Get in here. Something doesn't feel right in that direction." Ain't stepped over, scanning the area. "I don't feel anything." Gardner pressed, "Just stop talking and move already." Ain't sighed again. "Fine." He walked deeper into the cave, looked up at the towering cliff wall, and asked, "Is this the spot you meant? Where you felt something off?" "There's definitely something," Gardner said as he scanned the area intently. "I'm sure of it." Ain't shrugged. "Let's just grab the herb and get out of here." But then Gardner's eyes locked on something. "Ain't, over there. Look at that glow." A strange light shimmered across the cave floor, unmistakable even in the darkness of the cavern. Ain't crouched down for a closer look. "You're right, what is this?" "Dig it up fast," Gardner urged. "I'm on it," Ain't replied, brushing aside the debris and heaving a large stone away. What he saw next made his eyes widen. "This is..." Gardner lit up with joy. "We found it." Cut to Fernan, who had returned to the meeting point with Jace. The young man greeted him with a grin. "So, did you get what you were after?" Fernan nodded. "I did. And everything's fine on your end, I hope?" Jace replied cheerfully. "Yep. Just a couple monsters going berserk, nothing major." Fer nodded with approval. "Nice work." Without missing a beat, Jace put on a cheeky grin. "Suo, about my payment, already expecting it," Fernan said. "Our guild will place the order with the church today, same quantity as in the contract." Jace beamed. "You got it. Thanks a ton, boss." He turned to leave. "Catch you later, Fernan. May the blessings of mana be with you." Fernan sat on a thick tree branch, casually examining a chunk of mithril in his hand. In his mind he thought, just being able to hold mithril in my hand, this stuff is so rare that most people never even get to see it in person. Now I just need to find the right ore to pair it with. Mithril was known for its incredible ability to absorb and conduct mana, but on its own, it couldn't reach its full potential. It needed to be combined with another metal to truly shine. And of course that metal couldn't be anything common. The best combination for mithril is Adamant, Fernand pondered. The hardest metal known to man. He frowned slightly. But adamant is just as rare as mithril. Even with money, there's no guarantee you can get your hands on it. Where the hell am I supposed to find some? He glanced down and mumbled. I wonder if that prophecy thing could tell me where. Just then, a loud scream echoed from below. Help me. Fernand didn't move, still repeating to himself in a low voice, Adamant. 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 A girl below was sprinting at full speed, screaming her lungs out. Help. Professor, help me. Save me. She circled the base of the tree Fernand was sitting in, with 3 large dogs chasing her closely behind. Still unfazed, Fernand muttered, Really? Getting chased by dogs? Elves shouldn't be getting in real danger from that. The girl, realizing she wasn't getting a reaction, broke character and leapt up into the tree with him, landing nimbly in front of him. The dogs below continued barking wildly. Annoyed, Fernand frowned and said, Take care of that noise, will you? Arya Friedian raised her staff, its tip glowing brightly, and in mere seconds the dogs were handled. She then plopped down next to him on the tree branch and let out a breath. Happy now? Fernand looked at her and asked bluntly. What do you want? Arya gave him a dazzling smile. Nothing really, just happened to pass by. Then keep passing, he replied flatly. She laughed awkwardly. Okay, fine. Not a coincidence. I have my reasons. You're so blunt, you know. Fernand narrowed his eyes. What, trying to cozy up to the air of a noble house? Arya Friedian grinned. So obvious, huh? You caught me. I've heard the rumors. You're always trying to butter up future heir candidates, he said. Well, since you already found out, how about we just be friends? She suggested, shamelessly. No, Fernand replied without hesitation. Why not? I'm older. Don't be like that. Aren't heir candidates supposed to get along? Fernand stayed firm. Just because we're all heirs doesn't mean we have to be friends. Still trying to charm him, Arya smiled playfully. Friedian only recently became a candidate, after replacing Burchev. So we want to build good relations with the others. Come on please. Fernand raised an eyebrow. Aren't there other heir candidates from our year? Like Ain Armian? Arya smirked and replied cryptically. Elves can't just eat meat, you know. Gotta have some greens every now and then. Fernand instantly understood what she meant and chuckled inwardly. She didn't even try to hide it. Arya Friedian brazen as ever beamed at him. I want to be friends with all 6 heir candidates. Suddenly, the tree began to shake violently. Both of them flinched as Arya shouted, What now? From below. A male student screamed, Someone call the professor. There's a sea dragon in Lake Pardon. Sure enough, an enormous aquatic dragon burst out of the lake's surface, sending a massive wave rippling through the forest. Fernand was utterly stunned. A sea dragon? Arya cried out. A sea dragon? That's odd. Why did it suddenly show up? But as she turned toward Fernand, he had already leapt down below. She called after him, Hey! Are you seriously running off? He didn't answer. A wave of dread surged in his chest. Damn it. Something's not right. The prophecy never mentioned anything about a sea dragon emerging from the water and going berserk like this. What about Ain't? Over at the lakeside, chaos had broken out. The sea dragon was on a rampage, attacking students indiscriminately. Professors quickly organized the evacuation. This way. Move. Get out of the way. Someone shouted. All first years fall back. Assistants rushed to shield the freshmen at the front lines. Gardner turned to Ain't and said, That sea dragon is after you because you took the elixir. Leave it to the professors and assistants. We're pulling back. This time, Ain't didn't argue and quickly replied, Understood. Gardner urged him, Run. Be careful, don't draw its attention. But the dragon had already locked onto Ain't in the crowd and lunged toward him. Suddenly, a dark silhouette appeared, stepping in between Ain't and the beast. Fernand, holding his magic staff, activated a defensive formation to block the monster's charge. Muttering incantations under his breath, he unleashed a barrage. Dozens of sharp stone spikes erupted from the ground and launched at the dragon. But it didn't even flinch. Its gaze still brimming with bloodlust, its defense nearly impenetrable. Fernand gritted his teeth. Damn it. Are we really in over our heads? Professor Grad, watching from the rear, seemed satisfied. You're holding the line well, Fernand. Leave the rest to us. With that, he charged in, joined by other professors and assistants for a full assault. After a few fruitless strikes, the sea dragon finally turned and dove back into the lake. It's retreating. After it, someone yelled. Fernan exhaled deeply in relief. Strange, could my interference have slightly altered the prophecy? He wondered. Either way, the chosen one who's meant to save humanity is still alive. That's what matters. He chuckled to himself. And besides, I still haven't gotten my investment back. If he dies, I'm screwed too. He turned to Ain't and asked, "You okay?" Seeing the boy's tear-filled eyes, Fernan was taken aback. What's with that look? Is he scared? Ain't choked up and asked, "Did you come here to save me?" Fernan replied coolly, "Protecting students is a teaching assistant's job. Anyway, you're safe now. Go do what you have to do." As Fernan turned to leave, Gardner reminded Ain't, "Hey, don't forget we still have something to settle with him. We can't just let him go." Ain't quickly called out, "Actually, there's something I'd like to talk to you about. Do you have a moment?" Fernan glanced back and said, "Go ahead." "What is it?" Ain't hesitated. "Well, it's a bit awkward to say it here." The two of them moved to a quieter spot. Fernan reassured him, "Don't worry. No one's listening. Just say what's on your mind." "What is it?" Ain't gave a sheepish smile. "I was wondering, does your trading guild deal in ore?" Fernan nodded. "Of course. Why? You looking to buy some?" But the very next second, Fernan caught himself muttering, "Not exactly. I'm broke. Can't afford to buy anything. If anything, I should be selling." Ain't felt those words hit him right in the gut. He couldn't deny the truth, but it still stung. Fernan cursed inwardly. Damn it, I let that slip again. The boy always acted so obedient around him. Fernan nearly forgot, this kid's the reason I got fired in the first place. He remembered the moment Ain't handed him the dismissal notice, citing the reason, "You said I was dirt poor." That was a pretty brutal insult. Clearly, pissing this kid off hadn't brought him any benefits. Fernan said gently, "If what I said offended you, I apologize." Ain't blinked, surprised. "Huh. That was unexpectedly polite." Fernan clarified, "I didn't mean to upset you. Please don't take it to heart." Ain't quickly replied, "I was just joking." Fernan waved his hand firmly. "No, really. I mean it. I'm sorry." This brat, he actually apologized, Ain't thought in disbelief. Switching back to business, Fernan asked, "So, you mentioned you had something to sell?" Ain't nodded with a grin. "That's right." He pulled out a sparkling green gem. "This is it." The moment Fernan laid eyes on it, he couldn't hide his shock. "Adamant? I was just racking my brain trying to find some of this stuff, and now it's right in front of me." He smiled in disbelief. "What kind of luck is this?" Then quickly reminded himself, "No, I don't have it yet. Stay calm." Putting on a serious face, Fernan asked, "Adamant? You're selling this to me? You know this stuff isn't exactly something you find lying around. Where did you get it?" Ain't stayed casual. Fernan couldn't help but marvel. He's so calm holding something this rare. Rich kids really do live in another world. Ain't scratched his head. "I can't exactly say where I got it. But I swear it's not stolen or shady or anything. You can trust me. I've got so much of it, even my subspace inventory is full." Fernan's eyes widened in awe. "Hua, you actually filled the subspace. This is like an entire treasure vault," he thought to himself, convinced that there was no doubt Ain't had found it in that underwater cave. Didn't get the mithril, but ended up with adamant. This must be what they call main character luck. Curious, Fernan wondered what kind of cave could possibly hold both mithril and adamant. Noticing his silence, Ain't quickly spoke up, "If you're really interested, here's my condition." Before agreeing to sell the adamant to Fernan, Gardner had warned Ain't, "Be careful. Blink once around the Pellenbergs, and they'll steal the nose off your face. Even if you're negotiating, don't agree to a damn thing." And even now, Gardner kept nagging, "Are you even listening to me?" Ain't ended up presenting the conditions just as Gardner had instructed, and to his own surprise, they didn't seem half bad. Fernan didn't hesitate. "All right, I'll buy it under those terms." Gardner was stunned. What the hell? Did he actually just accept our conditions? Fernan then asked, "You know you could auction this off for way more. Why are you selling it to me?" Ain't answered honestly, "I just want to get rid of it as fast as possible. It's so rare that if word got out, I'd have a target on my back. Our main isn't strong enough to protect something like this." Fernan shot back, "And you think I am strong enough? What if I kill you and take the adamant for myself?" Ain't froze for a moment, then burst into laughter. Come on now, you gave me the sacred bird's heart, remember? And you fought a sea dragon to save me. You'd never do something like that. Fernand thought to himself, is this guy seriously trusting me? Guess rescuing him earlier really boosted my approval rating with him. Ain't nodded. Other people might. But you never would. I know you'd never hurt me. Fernand patted his shoulder. That's right, Ain't. I really do care about you. I know, Ain't smiled. Fernand continued. And I am the one who saved your life from that water dragon, right? Right. Then Fernand stared him straight in the eyes and added, so remember this, Ain't. If one day you suddenly feel like turning me into a beggar, think back to today. Ain't broke into a cold sweat. A beggar. Fernand leaned in a little, his tone serious. Never forget I risked my life to save you, understood? Yes, of course, Ain't nodded quickly. Those words seemed to put Fernand at ease. He turned to leave, tossing out a final line over his shoulder. I'll prepare the contract and get back to you. Okay. Ain't replied, still a bit puzzled by Fernand's hot and cold attitude. Once Fernand was gone, Ain't mumbled to himself, what was that about making me a beggar? Gardner growled. That guy's nuts. Must have gone into shock from seeing all that adamant. Cut to Ravita's dormitory building. Hyde's voice echoed through the hallway. I'm back, young master. He pushed open the door and asked gently, you've been at the Duke's estate quite a while. Did anything happen while you were gone? Before he could finish, he froze at the sight before him. My lord, what is all this? Fernand sat atop a literal pile of gemstones, lazily swirling a glass of wine, the very picture of indulgent leisure. With a cool expression he said, welcome back. First time seeing Mithril and Adamant in the same room, huh? Hyde stepped inside in shock. Wait, where did you even get these insanely rare ores? Fernand grinned. Some I dug up myself, some I bought. Been pretty busy lately. Hyde picked up a chunk of adamant and examined it. Even if you had money, you could barely buy this stuff. If I sold all this, my guild would smash through its annual revenue target. I'm not selling, Fernand replied casually. Hyde looked stunned. You're not? Then what are you going to do with it? Fernand gently swirled the wine in his glass, then answered slowly and deliberately. I'm going to build a colossal golem. One that can move on its own, and has a will of its own. Fernand, clearly in high spirits, began rambling passionately. I've always had a question. Knights have loyal steeds. Elves have spirit companions. So why are merchants always portrayed as alone? Why is it that merchants don't have a partner like that? He threw his arms out, eyes gleaming. So I've decided to fix that absurdity by creating a sentient giant golem. Hyde listened quietly for a while, a bit confused. Absurdity. Is that really the word for this? Fernand explained with confidence. Golems require advanced magitech knowledge and an obscene amount of funding. Which means, unless you're truly wealthy, don't even dream of making one. But for a merchant, that makes it the perfect asset. In truth, he had more strategic reasons. Having a sentient golem, especially with a war against demonkind looming, would be invaluable. In an era plagued by demonic terror, such a golem would be the ideal guardian. That's why I have to build something solid, something reliable. Watching his master's fervent expression, Hyde thought, I still don't get why a merchant would need a golem. But he looks pretty fired up. Might as well stay quiet. Then he asked curiously, but if it's going to be a sentient giant golem, how big are we talking? 10 meters, Fernand replied, dead serious. 10 meters, Hyde yelped. Why that huge? Fernand straightened up, face solemn. Because it looks freaking cool. Just then, a sudden jolt of pain hit him. He cursed under his breath, damn it, not again. The headaches were back along with another blasted prophecy. His vision spun, his head ready to explode. Master, Hyde yelled, rushing over and helping Fernand into bed. He shoved a thermometer toward him. Here, bite this. I'm fine. I said I'm not hurt, Fernand grumbled. Not hurt. Hyde snapped. You literally passed out. Do you even know how many times you've screamed in pain? He shoved the thermometer into Fernand's mouth. We're checking your temperature whether you like it or not. This time Fernand didn't argue. He sat quietly on the bed, thermometer between his lips, while Hyde checked the time and muttered. Probably side effects from getting struck by lightning last time. Fernand sat deep in thought. No time to rest. Another prophecy, right on schedule. This time it was about the sea. Army and dies. A contract-bound infiltrator attacks Ain't during a yacht club gathering. The yacht club was a social circle in the academy, exclusive to nobles. Fernand had joined to build connections, attending regularly. He'd even suggested transforming their simple tea parties into extravagant offshore yacht gatherings. Ironically, just as he convinced everyone to set sail, a monster appeared. Panic erupted. A monster. Why is there a monster here? Turn the boat around. Fernand spotted the contract-bound infiltrator sneaking aboard someone from his own trading company. Ain't confirmed the face. If he remembered correctly, the man was part of the crew. Could Pellenberg be involved in this? If they were aware, they were traitors to humanity. If they weren't, then they were more incompetent than he'd expected. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some people stumbled across treasure. Fernand? He got stuck with the full-blown, stat-maxed villain arc. No wonder Ain't thought he was destined to bring his downfall. As those grim thoughts churned in his head, Hyde pulled out the thermometer. Fernand shot him a look of pure annoyance. Hyde squinted at the reading. Let's see what kind of energy he's putting out. His eyes widened. That's way too high. If I slip up now, Fernand thought grimly, I'm really done for. Suddenly, an ice-cold compress was slapped onto his forehead. Hyde's tone was firm. Duke, you have a high fever. We need to call the physician immediately. Fernand's face was red as a beet, but he insisted, I told you I'm fine. Then Hyde remembered something. I heard we're expecting a visitor at the company today. Maybe we should postpone the doctor for now. Fernand raised a brow. A visitor. I didn't schedule anything today. But deep down, his instincts tingled. An unexpected guest. Smells like money. He grinned. Who is it? The visitor was someone familiar, Professor Grad. The man smiled amiably as he sat down at his desk and proposed a deal. After hearing him out, Fernand raised an eyebrow and asked, You want to sell the Sea Dragon's corpse? The one that appeared during the first-year combat exam? Grad nodded. That's right. It took quite a bit of effort to bring it down, he said with a cheerful tone. Everyone thinks Pellenberg will try to lowball me, but I know you won't. Fernand felt a surge of satisfaction. This was excellent news. A sea dragon offered all sorts of valuable parts. He hesitated for a moment, wondering whether it was really appropriate to approach a student directly like this. Grad replied bluntly, You're the one always making shady deals with the staff, and you're worried about that. Last time, why did you ask Professor Rosalia to appoint a temporary teaching assistant, huh? She's far too by the book. Next time, just come to me. You know, I'm okay with most things as long as I get a little something out of it. Hearing that, Fernand thought to himself, anyone could become a temp TA. Why even bother bribing a professor? Grad added. Besides, this time it's an official buyback request from the academy, sent to your family. I'm here as the academy's representative. I already contacted your house, and they told me to deal directly with you. Fernand nodded. I see. Actually, there's one part in particular I'm really interested in. Professor Grad's tone hardened. I don't do parts. It's all or nothing. Fernand picked up his tea and replied calmly, Well, that changes things. Grad insisted, It's a sea dragon. Not a single part of it goes to waste. That much was true. Fernand began calculating. Its teeth and bones were incredibly tough and ideal for crafting weapons. The blood and eyes were rich in mana, perfect for alchemy. The scales could be used for armor and protective gear. Whether bought in pieces or whole, it would all be useful. Still, as a businessman, Fernand knew his pride lay in maximizing profit. He needed to squeeze out just a bit more. Grad frowned. If that's how it's going to be, then I'll sell it to another family, Fernand. But Fernand calmly shifted the conversation. I heard that the profit from beasts caught during academy training exercises goes toward funding professors' research, right? At that, Grad's eyes froze briefly. Fernand revealed his hand. So, getting a good price benefits you too, doesn't it? Grad's expression changed instantly. He smiled again and asked, You want a good deal for your goods, don't you? Fine. What do you want? Fernand responded, I want exclusive rights to sell ships to the academy. If the academy needs ships, they can only buy them from Golden Turtle Trading Company. Ours. Grad looked confused. Ships? Why would the academy need ships? That's it, Fernand smiled. Exactly. The request sounded pointless now, but it was an investment for the future. Right now they might not need them, but soon they would. According to the prophecy, after the monster attack and the sinking of a luxury yacht, noble children would be left stranded at sea. The academy would realize it needed to offer maritime combat training, and would open courses accordingly. Naturally, this would lead to mock battles, which would damage ships, constantly resulting in huge repair costs, or the need to purchase new ones. In other words, this was a long-term, high-yield business opportunity. Grad agreed on the spot. Excellent. I'll bring it up with the headmaster. Scene shift. In a small bookstore tucked away in a quiet street, a customer asked, "Do you have a basic cookbook?" I checked the cooking section but couldn't find one. The shopkeeper smiled. "If it's not there, it's probably sold out." Then he added, "Wait a moment, I'll check the back." The girl nodded. Okay. The shopkeeper opened the back room and walked toward the shelves. "Basic cooking, where is it?" Suddenly, a dark mist began swirling behind him. A spectral figure appeared, reporting, "After investigation, we've confirmed that Ain Armian has never made direct contact with Varen Kalbunder, who has gone mad from demonic energy. According to the plan, Kalbunder was supposed to trace Armian's mana after being defeated. But it seems someone intervened." The man muttered, "Intervened?" The ghostly figure continued, "I couldn't identify who it was. The traces have been completely erased. So what you're saying is there's no way of knowing anymore?" The man asked. "No," the spirit replied. "I'll try other methods. I will find out." The bookseller waved it off. "Forget it. If you've had to go this far, there really might not be anything left. For now, focus on the next phase of the plan." "Understood," the spirit said. Still, the bookseller was troubled. "But this is strange. If Kalbunder truly fought him, there's no way he wouldn't have sensed the demonic aura. And yet, the Academy said nothing about it." He mulled it over. Erased traces, could it all just be a coincidence? Or, did someone do it on purpose? Hearing those words, the soul spirit grew alarmed. "Does that mean someone has already discovered our existence?" The bookstore owner replied with certainty, "Impossible. If someone truly knew, the world wouldn't be this quiet." The spirit nodded in agreement. "You're right. It must have been a coincidence." Still, he warned his comrade, "Even so, we need to be more cautious from now on. We're still not strong enough. If our identities are exposed, it'll jeopardize our future plans." The spirit acknowledged, "Understood." The bookstore owner emphasized again, "More importantly, eliminating Ain Armian is now our top priority. Ever since he enrolled at the academy, his growth has been beyond belief. I don't know why, but it must be related to the legacy of the first emperor, that cursed bloodline of his. That's why our next plan must succeed. If Ain Armian grows any stronger, it'll become a major problem." A dangerous glint appeared in his eyes. "We cannot afford another failure." The spirit responded, "I'll keep that in mind," and then vanished without a trace. The bookstore owner picked up a book and stepped outside with a cheerful voice. "Dear customer, I found that beginner's cooking manual you asked for." The young woman accepted the book with a smile and left quickly. "Thank you. Have a nice day." At the same time, inside a restaurant, Fernan and Luina were seated at a table, enjoying a meal. Fernan asked, "When did you first sense the demonic energy, and where?" Luina poured herself a glass of red wine and replied, "Exactly 3 days ago. It was around 7 in the evening, after dinner. I was with Bella at the time." Fernan asked for clarification. "Bella Hayan? Second semester, ranked 19th in the night division." Luina nodded. "Yes, that's the one. What exactly happened?" Fernan inquired, curiosity piqued. As she cut into her food, Luina began to recall the incident. 3 days ago, Bella challenged me to a duel. She said she felt she had improved and wanted to test herself. Normally we use wooden swords, but this time she insisted on using real ones. I don't know if she took some kind of elixir, but she was incredibly confident. And it wasn't just talk, her sword felt heavier, sharper than before. As we crossed blades, I could tell her strength really had increased. Not just power, her movements were faster too, quick enough to dodge my strikes with ease. After exchanging a few blows, Luina had said to her, "You're definitely not the same as before. Stronger and faster." Bella beamed, "Right? I've been feeling so much stronger lately. My control's better too. Hearing that from you makes me even happier." Then, out of nowhere, Bella declared, "All right then. Let's keep going." This time she gathered significantly more mana than before. At this point in the story, Fernan interrupted, "So you lost, didn't you?" Luina snapped, "No. Let me finish." She explained, Bella's sword technique is built around leveraging the weight and power of her blade. Compared to other styles, it's extremely destructive. But that also means the weapon is heavy and bulky, making it vulnerable in close-range combat. I waited for the perfect moment when the weight threw her off balance and landed a decisive blow. Bella had laughed sheepishly. Looks like I still can't control it properly. Huh? Luina took another bite. So yeah, that's what happened. Fernan asked, are you certain it was demonic energy? Luina replied firmly, I'd never forget that chilling, disgusting aura once felt from Varen. It was only for a moment, but I'm absolutely sure it was demonic. Fernan asked, and Bella? How is she now? Luina said she seemed completely normal. Even after the duel, nothing felt off. Unlike Varen, there were no physical mutations, and she didn't lose her mind. That's why I started to wonder if I was mistaken. Fernan listened intently. But you still want to make sure? Luina nodded. Yes. Because this is about demonic energy. And more importantly, Bella is my best friend. We grew up together. I can't just stand by and watch her turn into a monster. I figured you might be able to help, so I decided to tell you. She cut into the final piece of her steak. For Luina, meals this good were a rare treat. Fernan spoke slowly. I don't have a definite way to confirm it either. But I'll try to investigate in my own way. The girl nodded. Okay, thank you. He glanced at Luina's now empty plate and asked sincerely, by the way, be honest with me, was that dish actually edible? Steak with chocolate sauce? She replied with absolute conviction, yes, it was amazing. Later, Fernan stood by his desk, reviewing a detailed surveillance report. He muttered to himself, dormitory, classroom, training hall again, library, cafeteria as expected. Bella follows a model schedule. Just like that damned Varen. No suspicious interactions either. He analyzed every detail carefully. And unlike Varen, Bella hasn't suffered any trauma. She's cheerful and gets along with everyone. There's no reason to think she has any emotional void that would allow demonic energy to seep in. But if what Luina said was true, if Bella had truly used mana imbued with demonic energy, then only one similarity remained between her and Varen. Neither of them had made contact with a demon. Neither had formed any kind of pact. Could it really be that demonic energy had seeped into them without their knowledge? That it didn't even require direct contact with a demon? Was that even possible? Or, was Luina mistaken? Maybe it wasn't demonic energy after all. Suddenly, a sharp pain stabbed through his skull. Fernan grabbed his head, groaning in agony. Damn it, my head again. His vision blurred, and then, without warning, a strange scene unfolded before his eyes. It was a battlefield, blood-red skies, the stench of iron and thick, suffocating demonic energy. Monsters roamed everywhere. Humans had gone mad. Among them were students from the academy, citizens of the island. And there he saw Aintz's face, filled with fear and dread. The scene struck him with an eerie sense of familiarity. Everyone was behaving oddly. The demonic energy, silent and invisible, had crept into the students' bodies. And when the demon Andromalius descended, it began to awaken. Fernan recoiled in horror. Andromalius, then this must be. At that moment the academy looked no different from hell itself. Could this vision be showing him the exact moment right before Andromalius descended into the world?